on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Celebrating the longest reigning monarch in British history, Queen Elizabeth II, 70 years on the throne.
Good morning. It is 6 o'clock on Monday, February the 7th. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
And leading the news this morning, a series of royal gun salutes will mark the start of a year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70 years of service.
Share with us your favourite memories of the Queen at GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Prince Charles pays an emotional tribute to Her Majesty after she gives her blessing to his darling wife Camilla, becoming Queen Consort.
Meanwhile, a plan to tackle the NHS backlog in England has been put on hold after the Treasury blocked the move.
And the Mayor of Ottawa declares a state of emergency in the Canadian capital over the serious danger and threat posed by truckers protesting against the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. The latest on that coming up.
Our top story then this morning, and a series of royal gun salutes will today mark the start of a year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70 years of service to the nation.
Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall say they're deeply conscious of the honour following a statement by the Queen on her Platinum Jubilee for Camilla to be known as Queen Consort when the Prince of Wales is crowned king.
Well, yesterday, Her Majesty became the longest reigning monarch in British history, marking 70 years since the death of her father, King George VI, and her accession to the throne. Accession? I can never quite pronounce that. Let's get more, though, on this historic milestone from the historian of monarchy, Professor Anna Whitelock, who joins us this morning. Very good morning to you. Sorry, I fumbled that word. Accession, how do you say it?
It's both okay. Both of them are fine. I prefer accession, but you're fine. You're fine.
OK, good. OK. Look, this was a lovely day yesterday. And I suppose the thing that stands out was the turn of phrase that Her Majesty used. It was her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort. And really, you just can't argue with that, can you?
Well, it does try to draw a line under a question, of course, that's being raised really ever since Charles and Camilla married. Would she one day take the title Queen? Would, in fact, that be accepted by the British people? And the Queen is trying to resolve that now, reflect on the fact that Charles and Camilla are very much a partnership. They've been incredible supporters to the Queen. And she's now giving her blessing, but also hoping to resolve the issue that one day Camilla will be Queen, not Princess Consort as was previously suggested, but Queen. And in that sense, acknowledging the role that Camilla plays for Charles, similar to that of Philip, a key supporter, a key ally. And I think the Queen's just reflecting on the fact that you can't do that job alone. And she wants Camilla absolutely officially as well as personally to be by his side.
Professor, just so we're clear on this, officially it will not be Queen Camilla. She will always be known as Queen Consort Camilla. Is that right?
Well, her official title will be Queen Consort because, of course, she won't be the reigning queen, but she will be, for all intents and purposes, queen. And so, yes, she'll be referred to as Queen Camilla by right of her husband being King Charles.
Yeah, so just so we know this, because this is going to affect people like us a lot on media programmes where we have to do. So today, King Charles and what would I continue with?
Queen Camilla, you'll be fine. Don't worry. That's
fine
good. You'll still get your knighthood.
Good. Thank you.
I mean, look, I hate dredging up the old stuff because, you know, quite frankly, it's bygones be bygones. But it is remarkable how really she was vilified by the British public for a long period of time. And now she is being embraced. And is that just a change in society's attitudes to divorce? Is that just the passing of time? Or is that, do you think, the fact that she hasn't put her foot wrong? And really, the Queen is sort of accepting of duty and saying someone who's worked this hard deserves everything that comes with it.
Very happy.
And she makes her son happy. Yeah, what is it that has won everybody over?
Well, you're right. She hasn't put her foot wrong. I mean, she's been very respectful of the memory, really, of Diana in those early days, trying to just really keep out of the way, just quietly supporting Charles, not push herself forward. She knows she's not the kind of glamorous kind of woman who, you know, young woman, of course, that captivated people like Diana. She offers something more mature for Charles, but also she has over time done more. She's done a lot for literacy and osteoporosis and violence against women. But I think the point you make is an interesting one, because I assumed that, you know, time would have moved on and time would have healed and a younger generation wouldn't have remembered Diana and all the baggage that we have of that famous phrase, there were three in the marriage. But actually talking to younger people, my undergraduates, for example, they watch The Crown. And so they're kind of horrified by Charles and Camilla and the way that they treated Diana. And that's now been dredged up in a whole new way, which is quite interesting. So I think the passage of time for many people has kind of healed and moved on. But for younger people, they're incredibly agitated by it. I mean, their love for Diana, it's quite remarkable. I said, you weren't alive for her life or death. And they said, yeah, but, you know, look at how she was treated. I don't think this will be significant. I think people aren't going to have a massive, you know, outcry of opposition to the prospect of a Queen Camilla. But it's also true to say I don't think neither Charles or Camilla are going to command the level of affection that the Queen does, not least, of course, because her reign has gone on for so long. She is this remarkable figure, both enigmatic but also incredibly familiar to us.
I do think The Crown, though, you know, obviously it's fiction, but what it did do was it painted this picture of the love story between Charles and Camilla that, you know, how was going on behind the scenes. And it's interesting that you say young people have been outraged, freshly outraged by the whole treatment of Diana. But for me, having lived through it, only seeing the Diana trauma, it was interesting to see the love story behind the scenes. So there's a kind of flip to that, I suppose. I just wanted to ask you, before we move on, is the choice of words again from Her Majesty, when the time comes, obviously talking about her passing. So I think yesterday was really poignant, wasn't it?
Or her retirement.
Her retirement. But it wasn't.
Although I don't think she's going to retire, no matter how infirmed she would.
Well, exactly. She renewed her commitment, didn't she, whether my life be short or long. But, yeah, when the time comes, it's a reminder she won't be there forever, will she?
No, of course she won't. And actually looking at those images yesterday, I mean, you know, although there was a very clear sort of sparkle in her eye and her sense of humour there absolutely on display, she looked incredibly frail. She was there with a stick. She's obviously sort of lost some weight, has really just sort of shrunk a bit, even further from the diminutive figure that she is. But yeah, of course, I mean, she suffered this year the loss of her husband, Prince Philip. She's also suffered the loss of a couple of ladies in waiting, older women who have been close to her for many years. I mean, in that speech that she sent to the COP's conference, she, you know, talked about, you know, we don't live forever. I mean, and her mortality is, you know, there for all to see. She's acknowledging that. But I think she's now reflecting with pride that she has secured the succession. She has her son, Charles, and Camilla there to succeed her, but also William and Kate. And in recent speeches, she's very much focused on the four of them and the work, particularly that Charles and William have done for the environment. So I think she's probably in a reflective mode. I mean, clearly yesterday was the accession day, the death of her father, and so that is always a day for reflection for her. But I hope that this year she'll reflect on a job well done, and that when the time comes, as far as she sees it, she's done her bit and the succession is secure.
She's done her bit, no doubt. Professor, thank you very much indeed. Lovely talking to you. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
OK, let's take a look at the headlines.
Wait a minute.
Wait a
minute. You always cut that music. Cut that music. Right.
Not ready.
You're always in a rush.
I am, yeah. I'm an impatient person. I am.
So how many times have you met the Queen?
Well, only the one time when I bumped into her in Balmoral.
That's a brilliant story. Isabel was out on a picnic and this woman came down and run her off the road, basically. And it was the Queen driving her own Land Rover.
I've seen her at events and reported at events that she's been at, but up close and personal, only the one time accidentally.
So I've shaken her gloved hand on a number of
many
occasions.
a times.
It's a very soft glove.
Give me a demonstration.
Do you see why your hand's sweaty and sticky?
It's cold. It's freezing cold.
The thing is that the Queen, there'd be no germs. If I did that with you, I'll have to now sanitise my hand. But the thing is, the Queen, she doesn't want germs from people like you. So she wears that silky
She does. Well, maybe I should do that.
And then she just, throws that in the bin afterwards. That's a very good idea.
Well, I don't think that's her intention, is it? She doesn't want to mix with the filthy public.
No, it is germs. It's to do with germs. And there's always germs.
It's just ladies of the highest order would only wear gloves, white gloves.
OK, move on now.
OK, let's move on. We're ready. We're going to talk about the French President Emmanuel Macron. He is off to Moscow today. He's meeting the Russian President Vladimir Putin. This is in a bid to dial down tensions with Ukraine. Sources close to Macron said he aims to buy time and freeze the situation for several months, at least until the general election in France.
Story we're going to be reflecting for you today. Ottawa has declared a state of emergency due to an ongoing demonstration against vaccine mandates led by truckers. The Freedom Convoy, as they're known, has paralysed parts of the city for several days, with some saying they want to dissolve Canada's government.
The murderer of Millie Dowler, Levi Belfield, has reportedly admitted to killing a mother and her 6-year-old daughter in 1996. A lawyer representing Michael Stone, who's serving life for the murder of Lynn and Megan Russell, says he's received a letter from Belfield detailing his involvement.
Students will be able to get higher GCSE and A-level grades this year, with boundaries set to be lowered. The Education Secretary says it will give students a fair chance of following disruptions caused by the pandemic.
Senegal has claimed its first ever Africa Cup of Nations title with a 4-2 penalty shootout victory over Egypt. The team had previously reached the final in 2019 but nearly missed out after losing to Algeria.
My hand's still a little bit sticky.
It's unbelievable.
But do you have something on your palms? Did you got cream or something on that? No. Otherwise, it's quite unnatural. What I'm taking. Do you ever get that when you shake someone's hand and you literally get that?
Disgusted, yeah.
They're so wet. Their hands are so wet.
I'm paranoid now.
No, not yours, but I mean, yours.
You're also very soft and warm. Mine are a bit cold and sticky.
It's as if you've got glue on yours. It's like my fan.
Well, I have been fiddling with my very straight hair, so.
But the people that you do that to.
Yuck. Yeah.
It's nothing as bad as a sticky hand. I also think if their hands are sticky and moist.
What else is?
Correct.
Oh,
that's
gosh.
what I think. A multi-billion-pound plan to tackle the NHS backlog has been delayed after the Treasury blocked an announcement due to be made today.
Yeah, we're joined now by Tom Harwood, our GB News political correspondent, to give us more insight on this. Very good morning to you, Tom. So is this a sign, then, of a rift between number 10 and number 11?
Well, it looks that way, but honestly, it depends who you ask. There are sources around the Prime Minister who say that this is the Treasury meddling, blocking, trying to prevent a new policy agenda being delivered by this Prime Minister. However, Treasury sources would say that the NHS agrees with them in this particular case, that the plans simply aren't ready yet. There are some hallmarks to what we were seeing in sort of 2006-07 with the end of the Blair era in government before Gordon Brown was coming in. Then the Treasury would block a lot of proposals, reportedly, would sort of say that money being splashed around at what looks like the end of an administration is probably not money well spent, although evidently there's huge disagreement as to whether that's the case or not. So really, two different sides here, briefing two different stories.
Well, you know, sometimes you would look at this. I mean, the general headline, Tom, would be as if the government has given up on healing us. But I'm reading in one of the papers today, it said that this is done with NHS agreement, that they feel they're not ready to implement such a new plan.
That's right, and that's what the Treasury was saying last night as well, that this is not a permanent block, that this is about sorting it out and making sure the plan is right before it's published in full. It's worth saying that part of that plan will be announced today by the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid. The part that we understand is about allowing people to shop around if they want, to see which hospitals have the lowest waiting lists and which areas have the highest waiting lists, and being able to travel the country if they so choose to go to somewhere that has a lower waiting list. That's part of what was going to be a much broader plan that we're expecting to be announced today. But of course it does all feed back into this story. Is the number 10, number 11 rift clogging up effective government in this country?
Heard it all before over the years. Shop around, get what's free, get on shorter waiting lists, whatever. Nothing changes. Anyway.
Tom, what of this Daily Mail serialisation of this book into Carrie Johnson? I mean, she's come out and said she's the victim of a brutal campaign. Certainly some salacious stuff in there.
There certainly is. It's a unique position, really. We don't have a formal position for the spouse of the Prime Minister in this country, and for the last few Prime Ministers there's been a less public role for their spouse. But of course Carrie Johnson is someone who did work for the Conservative Party for many years. She's been an advisor to many people. She's been a special advisor. She's worked for Zach Goldsmith. She's worked in Conservative campaign headquarters. So she is a political person, and to some extent people will say, well, she's clearly having a political influence over this government. Many people who have been brought into number 10 are seen to be in what's termed as a Carrie clique, people who are personal friends of hers, and to that extent potentially her influence over government is different from someone, say, of like Samantha Cameron, who wasn't particularly political, who didn't have her own political friends really, or that much influence over the running of government. Now, it's worth saying that Carrie Johnson would say that she doesn't have a formal advisory capacity in this government. Of course, she talks with her husband about the way that things are being run, but would deny the claims that she's intimately and intrinsically involved with the particulars of decision making. It has to be said, however, that this book, serialised in the Mail, written by Lord Ashcroft, makes some pretty profound allegations of day-to-day running of the government being influenced heavily by Carrie Johnson.
Thank you. Speak later. Appreciate it. Tom Harwood live there from Downing Street. Now, I tell you what I think. Stop the music. Every time you pause in this programme, somebody wants to play. It's like Top of the Pops. I tell you what I think about her.
Do, because I love this conversation.
She's going to become another Meghan Markle.
Oh.
Right? Look, right. So you could criticise any bloke in the land, no one cares. You criticise her and you're anti-people who have long, thick, blonde hair. You're anti-people, you're sexist. You're all sorts of things. Why can't people just accept there may be an element of truth in all of this and examine it from that point of view?
People are and I think Tom summed it up perfectly. She is different, and people aren't used to this mould of First Lady, it's not what we call it, but are we actually saying in 2022 a wife is not allowed to have an opinion? Are we actually saying the Prime Minister is not allowed to be surrounded by people who aren't elected? If we're not saying either of those things, and there shouldn't be a problem, one of the reasons he's attracted to her is because she's a political being. She's got ideas and thoughts, she's experienced, she was a spad to Sajid. Yeah, but neither are half of the guys who's just Guto Harry, Linton Crosby, all these people they're bringing in
pillow talk with them.
I'm just saying, she's
I'm just
clearly...
saying criticism of her surely is legitimate, just because it's her, just because she's a woman, just because, I don't know. It's the whole Meghan Markle thing. Oh, that'll be racist because you said something bad about Meghan Markle.
I do think she's getting an unfair battering.
What do you know?
Well, I just don't.
What do you know?
Well, the other.
She could be a complete witch.
Well, she could be, but let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume that a woman who's running Conservative Party communications at 29 has probably got something between the ears.
So you wouldn't be, if that was Dennis Thatcher we were talking about, you wouldn't be.
Well, he got a lot of the same.
But you wouldn't be sitting defending him. That's the difference.
Well, the other thing, I'm trying to be balanced now. I'm trying to be balanced now, but she was also possibly has her fingerprints on Partygate, Wallpapergate, and Pen Farthingate. So. But I'm just saying, don't hate her because she's got an opinion. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't hate her. I couldn't care less. But what I think is that you should be allowed to question, as I have said before in the past, you should be allowed to question the narrative, especially if you've got a Prime Minister known to be who he is.
Yeah,
anyway,
there you go.
The time is 90 minutes past 6. Let's run that music. Here we go. Coming up, why examiners are being asked to grade papers more generously for A-level and GCSE students.
But first of all, the forecast read by us.
Go. Looking ahead to today's weather, and Britain is looking increasingly cloudy after a sunny and frosty start with some rain arriving. The details: the southwest of England will end the morning on a generally dry but cloudier note than you'll see first thing, and a slight breeze will also develop. Some cloud will also be edging in across the southeast, although here the sun will still be making an appearance at times.
Heading across to Wales, there'll be quite a thick blanket of cloud, giving the odd spot of drizzle over the hills. The Midlands will be mainly dry, although they'll have lost the early morning bright spells, being replaced by increasing amounts of miserable cloud and a bit of west to southwesterly breeze.
A little bit of patchy rain likely over the Pennines, but to the east of high ground, many parts of northeast England will be dry, albeit on the cloudy and rather breezy side.
For much of Scotland, the middle of the day will be unsettled with outbreaks of rain in places, quite strong winds. Edinburgh and some other eastern spots, though, should just about escape dry.
Northern Ireland, some rain likely to affect here. And it'll be light, it'll be patchy, it'll mainly fall over hills. It'll be mild with a keen wind blowing. The afternoon and evening will be mostly cloudy with patchy rain and strengthening winds. Gales and heavier rain will affect parts of the north, and that is how the weather is shaping up this Monday morning.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Examiners are being asked to mark papers more generously for students taking tests this year.
Yeah, it's all part of a plan to manage the effects of the pandemic, considering the learning time that's been lost. Our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis joins us live from Nottingham. You've got a burning question.
I have a burning question. Well, the morning after the night before that amazing FA Cup win, you know, it was so emphatic. Nottingham must be buzzing today.
Certainly, yeah. As a Nottingham boy myself, certainly with a lot of Nottingham Forest fans for friends, there is a real excitement amongst the people here to take on a team like Leicester City and to dismantle them in the way that Nottingham Forest did. It's something that the city is really proud of and something nice to wake up to on a Monday. Even if you didn't have the chance to watch the game, certainly that atmosphere of pride in a city surrounding its football team, one of its major football teams, to see something like that, it's a really nice time to be waking up in Nottingham today.
Okay.
Well done, Will. I wish I had the same story to recount, but to everybody in Middlesbrough, no hard feelings, all fine.
OK, on to the less exciting topic of exams. For an old stickler like me, anything that sounds like it's being made easier really gets my goat. But this is, I suppose, a legitimate argument, even though some people will say it reduces the breadth of learning for youngsters.
Yeah, well, there's certainly some big gaps, even in a year where we have started to get things back to normal. A lot of students have missed out on significant time where they will be preparing for their exams this year. That can leave a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry. So the news today that Ofqual are going to be making exam marking a little bit more lenient, marking a little bit more generously, as well as revealing some of the topics that most students will be asked, is certainly going to be something that many students are going to be walking to school with a bit of a spring in their step. Not just Nottingham Forest fans, a lot of teenagers that might have been quite anxious about the wide breadth of the things that they would usually be asked, maybe a little bit more excited to know that they'll know some of the topics that they're going to be asked about. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list of every single topic and every single question. It's just going to give some real clear guidance and a bit of a framework for students to revise, as well as for teachers to carry on teaching for the rest of the year. Now, we've got a statement here from Dr. Joe Saxton, the Chief Regulator of Ofqual. That's the exam board regulator here in Britain. It says advanced information published today is one of the ways we are supporting students to have that certainty as they prepare to show what they know and can do. We are also ensuring there is a safety net for students with a generous approach to grading. Now, this isn't going to be for every single subject. As I said, it's not going to be an exhaustive list of what students are going to be asked, but it will really give a bit of a clear guide for teachers and students to take the next few months before their exams with a little bit more of a tender approach, and knowing maybe some of the things that they're certainly going to be asked about in their A-level and GCSE exams for this year.
To ask a lot of people a lot of things between 9 and 9:30. Well, we're going to be crossing back and forward to you as the day goes on. For the moment, live from Nottingham, Will Hollis, thank you very much indeed.
OK, from Nottingham, let's take you to Shrewsbury. Giles Bell is the Senior Admissions Tutor at Shrewsbury School and also a Philosophy of Religion teacher. Very good morning to you. Regular on GB News. Lovely to see you. What do you make of all of this, then? Do you think it's right that examiners should be more generous this year than last?
Yes, I do, actually. I think the last couple of years have been quite tough for both kids and teachers. And a lot of kids and teachers as well have been off with COVID. Online teaching has its problems, and yeah, I think there will be gaps in people's knowledge, and I think teachers won't have been able to deliver in quite the way they would normally have been able to do. yeah,
Really interesting to hear. We're talking about the way it has been done in this interim period, the way it's going to be done. But do you believe in the future it is time for a change in how children are tested? Tell us more.
Yeah, I do. I think it's time we looked at the whole exam process. And, I just happen to know from last year's exams that at our school, some of the kids were tested and tested and tested to ensure that we could give the proper assessments of their progress. And I just wonder whether actually the GCSEs now are too broad. Do we really need 15, 16-year-olds doing 11 or 10 subjects at this stage? It's fine if you're very bright at the top and you can cope with everything. But there's a lot of kids there with a lot of pressure on them. And let's face it, in the modern world, if you want to know something, you just go to your phone, look up Wikipedia, and you're there, aren't you? You know absolutely everything. I was helping my son last night with some maths, and I'm not very good at maths. And so we just Googled what he was struggling with, and a little lesson comes up. Bob's your uncle, sort of thing.
Bob's your uncle. But you see, Isabel's outraged by what you say. She's a traditionalist and obviously very, very good at school and at maths. And
no, I wasn't good at maths. I got an A at GCSE maths, but I struggled with my maths. I worked hard. But my issue with reducing the number of GCSEs that you take is that you're narrowing the options for youngsters. And I didn't know at 14, 15 what career I wanted to take. It was hard enough to single it down. I did by about 17, 18.
I did by 11.
Well, you were lucky, but a lot of youngsters, if you reduce the subjects down, you narrow their chances. If you take out maths, for example, then certain careers closed off to them.
Is that you're not even opening the door in the first place. You're not preparing them for today's life, for the technology that exists there, and the way we all use our brains, or the skills we're supposed to have, Giles. Am I right in that? Please say yes.
Eamonn, you're right.
Oh, gosh, you're insufferable to parent you.
Isabel, I have to ask you, how often do you use your physics and your maths knowledge? And because I struggled with maths. I failed it twice, I think, got it third time. And quite frankly, I've never used any maths that I could never do. I can do my adding and subtraction, but do I need to know the circumference of a circle or whatever it might be?
Maybe not. No. I was asked by my children what causes a rainbow yesterday, and I was trying to explain refraction, and I regretted that I didn't have a better physics answer for them.
But get your phone out, Isabel. Get your phone out. It'll be on there somewhere.
I was driving. I couldn't.
And so just visualise this for us, would you, Giles? I mean, so you replace mathematics or Latin or whatever it happens to be.
Google.
With well, not just Google. What would you learn in the classroom then? What way do you see that going?
Well, I personally would say everybody probably say up to about 13 has to achieve a certain standard. You don't. I'm not saying give up maths and physics and chemistry and all the rest of it. I'm just saying that by the age of 13, I knew that I was never going to go down the route where you had to use calculations. Now, I accept that some people, our brightest kids will always have that problem of kind of knowing what to give up because they're good at everything. But I guess I'm talking about the sort of, the normal people who kind of actually do quite know. They struggle with some of those subjects. So actually, why not take the pressure off them? Say, yes, you have to reach a certain standard where actually, that's going to last you well in life. But then maybe you could cut down to, say, 6 GCSE subjects, which you do over 3 years, which might mean you can do a bit more in-depth study. And also, perhaps you could do some stuff that would educate people in social sort of life, whatever you want to call it. Because I just feel that if you think about the number of people who go into jobs, that most of the skills that you need in the job world are actually talking to people, understanding people, having some empathy, all the rest of it. And it's anything that encourages that, I think, would be fantastic. And, absolutely, you don't want to close science to people. I'm not saying that, but I just think, most of us have a good idea that we're going to go down the kind of artsy, writery route or the sort of, or more science route. I mean, my dad called me once skiving a lecture on engineering when I was at school, and he just said, "What are you doing?" I said, "There's a lecture on engineering." He said, "Fair enough," because I was doing English, history, and RS at A-level.
And it would be true. We're massively over here, Giles, so we've got to go. But and it is true that people with what is termed emotional intelligence run the world, And people, what's the other intelligence you have?
IQ.
Which is?
Well, intellectual. You've got EQ or IQ. I don't know. I know a lot of people who run the world with zero EQ.
I think if you look and you see the Bill Clintons, the
newsrooms,
President
there's a lot of
whatever, it's people, as Giles was saying, who've got communication skills and whatever. But anyway, we'll talk about this later in the programme, Giles. It's very, very interesting as to the future of education and what we should be teaching people in. SWATs like Isabel would like it to stay the same. People with emotional intelligence prefer to be different. Giles Bell, he's senior admissions tutor at Shrewsbury and a philosophy of religion teacher. Thank you very much indeed, Giles. Thank you. See, I would think philosophy of religion is much more useful in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, but do you know what? I did philosophy A-level. A lot of philosophers, famous philosophers like Kant and Descartes, were all mathematicians.
No.
Yes, because actually it's all about formula and routes of thinking and logic. And you would never have thought that mathematicians and philosophers are really... So the humanities and the sciences, they often... It's the same languages. I love French and linguists, often mathematicians, because, again, it's formulaic. So I would worry about closing down some of those avenues. But anyway...
Well, I'd have just danced all night if they'd have closed down maths and maths.
Yeah, no, me too.
I'll tell you that. And with that, I think we can run some music now. Coming up, we're going to take a look at the front pages with our guests, Andre Walker and Polly Mackenzie, back after this extremely short break.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
At the time is 6:36. Time to take a look at your newspaper front pages this Monday morning. The Daily Mirror leading on readers on a call to become blood donor heroes as the NHS is struggling with a shortage.
Boris Johnson promising to reset what he terms a dysfunctional Downing Street as he tells rebellious MPs to get a sense of perspective over Partygate allegations.
Fears that an overstretched NHS service can no longer provide prompt care is leading The Guardian this morning.
According to the Daily Mail, Prince Charles had changed his coronation vows several years ago to include the words Queen Camilla, thanks to the reigning Queen's blessing. And let's get into those newspapers. We've got Andre Walker and Polly Mackenzie. Very nice to see both of you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. It's the Express and these tributes to the Queen on her Jubilee.
And a new Queen coming in the fullness of time, hopefully quite a long way away, but...
obviously Her Majesty the Queen has consented to Camilla using the title Queen. It's always a bit odd, this, by the way, because people, I think, misunderstand it. Camilla is the Princess of Wales at the moment. She just chooses not to use the title because obviously it's so associated with Princess Diana. But there was some discussion as to whether she'd describe herself as Princess Consort rather than Queen. I personally don't see any reason why you wouldn't call the Queen because it's not associated with Princess Diana, but I think it is a good thing. I get the sense, and I know you were discussing it earlier, that that Camilla's become more popular in recent years. I mean, I haven't watched The Crown. I know you talked about it before, but I think she's kind of... She's not what she used to be in terms of being a pariah. I don't see this being a major issue at all. But I was out and about, by the way, in Windsor, doing the Platinum Jubilee church service with the mayor, which is fantastic. We're going to have a great year in Windsor. I live in the town centre. Loads of events going on at the Guildhall. Pop over.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be doing something, won't we, for that Jubilee weekend, Eamonn? I was thinking about that.
You have a big
I'm sure we'll
new
be out and about.
hotel in Windsor, don't you?
They keep going bust because of the pandemic.
Oh.
No, I think there's a big new one opened up.
But, Polly, it is great that the Queen has come out because, you know what, there is no debate, there's no furore. When the time does come, there won't be lots of questions about it. We now know what her wishes are, and Prince Charles has said that, you know, his darling wife, he's very happy about all of this.
Yeah, I think it is good. And as Andre says, I don't think it's going to be controversial. There is some people still who think that Charles shouldn't be king and that we should skip a generation, put Prince William in. But unless you believe that, I think that Charles and Camilla kind of as a double act makes sense. For me, I still don't really get why Prince Philip was a prince. And, you know, it's because this whole hierarchy thing, right? So, and it happens with knighthoods as well. If you are... If Eamonn became Sir Eamonn Holmes, then, you know, his wife would be Lady. But if you become Lady, you don't get to confer that on your partner.
Like that.
And the same in gay partnerships as well. It doesn't, you know.
Oh, really?
So, and of course, we can see the line of succession at the moment is going to be king, king, king. So maybe we don't need to worry about it too much. But as a sort of point of principle, I don't really get why we still assume that a male title kind of confers one set of things on the female partner, but a queen couldn't possibly have a king because automatically the king's the boss of the queen. I think we could move beyond that.
But, you know, funnily enough, it was a big debate when Queen Victoria came to the throne because she considered having a king consort with Albert. There were some people who said that the monarch is the king and the partner is the queen, so you could have Queen Albert. But obviously, I think people are not that keen on that.
It sounds like a piercing, don't you think?
Oh, let's not go there.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, if I was him, I wouldn't have been that keen. But
No, he had enough rumours around him. Polly, front page of the Telegraph and this whole story we were talking about earlier. So what is happening? Big plan for the NHS. The Treasury says, no, we're not releasing the money. The theory is NHS are saying, look, there is a big backlog, but we're not ready to implement a plan yet to clear it. What's going on? What do you think?
Well, we know there's a huge backlog, huge numbers of people waiting, particularly for elective care, things like hip operations, eye operations. And that's all of those people are kind of queued up because of the pandemic. It's going to cost a lot of money. Two of the problems, one is simply staff. We just don't have enough doctors and nurses. And the other is the cash. And weirdly enough, this echoes for me what we saw last week with the Levelling Up white paper. Really good, actually, ambition and policy ideas from the government, but the Treasury, Rishi Sunak, kind of going, well, I don't really want to pay for this. It sounds a bit expensive. Exactly the same dynamic. Sajid Javid, as the Health Secretary, wanting to do what the public want, which is spend the money, clear this backlog, get people the care that they need. Because, you know, if you're waiting for one of those operations, it can be absolutely miserable, kind of life-changing levels of pain for years on end. And again, the Treasury saying no, because they've got the kind of the fiscal hawk orthodoxy, actually, of the George Osborne era. But that's not the ethos of this government.
But is that
how much of that? Is it how much of that, or is it sort of play acting and position forming from Rishi Sunak over Boris Johnson?
Well, I'm sure there's part of that. You know, Boris Johnson is very much not your traditional Conservative who wants austerity and discipline and sound money principles of the Treasury. But he came in with a mandate in 2019 to kind of, you know, put lots of money into the NHS, to have a different economic approach in the north of England, in those left behind areas. And so for the Treasury to just sort of pretend that low tax, low regulation, low spending is what the public voted for.
Where's all this Brexit money?
Maybe we shouldn't get into that because I'll just disagree with too many of your viewers. But of course, the fact is our economy is a lot smaller than it would have been if we'd stayed in the European Union, and we've got to suck it up. We've got to find a way to train British people if we're not going to have anyone from overseas anymore in our NHS, and just get this moving.
And do you agree with that, Andre? Do you think that what the people want is to see more spending, i.e. ultimately higher taxes?
Well, of course, the big problem, and funnily enough, I was speaking to a friend of mine who's the managing director of cancer care at a major hospital, and of course the big problem is with something like cancer and people not getting treatment, if you don't go tomorrow and you go the day after, the problem is worse. And so there's a significant problem, of course, with now people who are going to be stage 4 rather than stage 3 and all that sort of thing. So actually, it just sort of grows exponentially as a problem.
And I don't think people see it like that. They don't worry about the taxes things go up. They just worry about their hip pain or their
until they get to the ballot box.
But I think part of the problem is, we often complain about NHS beds. What my friend said to me is the reason that the NHS tries to run at 95% capacity is they don't want hundreds of beds empty just in case there's some form of emergency. Now, if you think about that, how do you expand out for a temporary jump in the number of cancer cases and then retract back down? I think it's a significant problem. I think this lockdown and the fact that people have delayed their treatment is a public health disaster in of itself.
OK, now, guys, we're going to open up the debate now. You've taken this from the BBC website on Carrie Johnson. And Isabel, you're a bit suspect that this wouldn't happen to a man. You think it's a bit sexist here or whatever? Or does she deserve what's coming her way?
The Queen's declared that she's not going to be Queen. so that, it was a lesser known bit of the announcement. Look, I felt very sorry for her because, if you remember there was that incident in the flat, I don't want to get into it, but of course neighbours were recording on the walls and selling it to papers.
Pre-Downing Street days, Camberwell flat.
And of course, had it been true, and she denied it, that she was a victim of domestic violence, then why would it have been appropriate to record it and sell it to a national newspaper? So I think she does get treated quite badly. But there is a great sense here, I think, of, amongst many viewers, certainly on my YouTube channel and indeed on this channel, people who believe that she is far too influential within Downing Street. I think it's always odd, if you're going to be a couple and one's in power, but people genuinely feel that she's a political operator when she wants to be a political operator and then jumps back and says, I'm only the wife, when it's inconvenient to her. Question mark, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? When you compare her with someone like Samantha Cameron, who very much played a backseat role. I mean, I can barely think of any occasions where we heard her thoughts about issues. And then you read Sarah Vine's article, of course, used to be married to Michael Gove, yesterday describing it as equivalent to, and I don't know if I'm allowed to use this word on breakfast, equivalent to slut-shaming, the way that Carrie Johnson is treated. Have we gone a bit too far in our sort of hatred of her?
I absolutely think we have. Of course, she is more political, with more of a political career in her own right than any Downing Street spouse who's come before. Nevertheless, this, in my view, is a concerted effort to essentially protect Boris Johnson by saying it's all her fault. It's a mad woman in the attic narrative. And it is being used to try and insulate him from his own choices and his own bad behaviour. Even if every allegation against her were true, which I do not believe, but assuming that it is, he's still the Prime Minister who chose to put her in Downing Street, who chose not to draw boundaries between her views and his staff. So in the end, he is our Prime Minister. He's the one with a democratic mandate. She is a private citizen. If he cannot police the boundary between her and his professional life, then he doesn't deserve high office. It's fundamental. He's the one we elected. He is the one who chooses the political career. If he listens to her too much, in the end, that's his choice. I listen to my husband on some stuff, and on some stuff, I tell him that he is wrong. And you know what? We're still married.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect your husband not to have an opinion, and I suppose none of us would.
But he doesn't call my staff and tell them what to do, right? And if he did, I would tell him where to go.
Interesting point.
Guys, let's talk about what's going on in Canada. This Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, Polly. We're going to be going live to Canada later in the programme. So the city has declared an emergency over these protests.
This triggers in me exactly the same feelings that I had when we saw the really quite extreme Extinction Rebellion protests. That freedom to protest is incredibly important in an open society. And yet when you start to disrupt the fundamental business of people going about their daily lives, I think a boundary has to be drawn. And I do really feel for the citizens of Ottawa who are, who their democratically elected government has made some choices about public policy, about public health, with which lots of people will agree, lots of people will disagree. But actually, in a democracy, that's the main way that you should have your feelings heard. If you are disrupting roads, preventing food getting to people, in the end, you have crossed a boundary, and I support the government of Ottawa, the democratic government of Ottawa, in holding back those protesters, just as I support those changes to protest laws that enable the government to do more about people like Extinction Rebellion gluing themselves to stuff.
Yeah, I have to say, my concern always, and it started, I felt, I don't know if you'd agree, with Brian Hall standing in Parliament Square, where these protests ceased to be protests and became, we're going to blockade this, we're going to cause X, Y, Z trouble, we're going to get a megaphone and shout at people. And it's no longer a protest, it's an attempt to deliberately disrupt. Nonetheless, I think it is very difficult if you are in a position where your government is egregiously abusing your human rights on a constant basis with things like mandatory vaccines, then, it's hard to know what to do under those circumstances. And so I'm not a great believer in protests. I certainly wouldn't blockade a butcher's because I'm a vegan. Definitely not. Did you guess I'm not a vegan, even though we've not interacted?
I did guess, yeah.
But I wouldn't do any of that. But I have to say, I have a great deal of sympathy with the frustration being expressed here. People are having their livelihoods absolutely destroyed by all this. We talked a second ago about the lockdown itself being a public health disaster, and governments are not recognising that frequently enough.
OK, guys, thank you very much indeed. That's their first jab at the papers there. Andrew Walker and Polly Mackenzie, they're going to be back in an hour's time.
OK, up next, we've been talking about children's mental health. This is an issue that doesn't go away, but of course it's highlighted ever more by the issues surrounding the pandemic. A new report into children's mental health in England and Wales has concluded that there's still a long way to go. Only a third of those with probable mental health disorders are able to access treatment.
Imran Hussain is Director of Policy and Campaigns and Action for Children and joins us now. Imran, what do you make of this report?
The report's very worrying. I mean, there have been improvements on the previous year, but we're still seeing lots of children being referred for mental health treatment in the NHS. We're still seeing a real issue about budgets being allocated for these services, and we're seeing children waiting a long time for treatment. So on all of those things, there's been a bit of improvement on the previous year, but the problem is significant.
So the data suggests the number of children with probable mental health conditions is around 1 in 6 now. Can you solely blame the pandemic on that?
No. I mean, back in 2017, the number of children, the equivalent figure was 1 in 9. So it's gone now from 1 in 9 to 1 in 6 in 2020. So that calculation of 1 in 6 was done sort of in the second and third lockdown. So I imagine if that figure was updated, it may even be higher. Now, my organisation, Action for Children, we see children and work with children before they need NHS treatment. So the figures today are about children whose situation has deteriorated so much that they need NHS treatment. Action for Children, with our services, we have services in schools where we highlight, identify children at risk of depression and work with them. We also have a helpline for parents called Parent Talk, which you can find out on our website, a free chat line, a chat service. From there, we work with children and families before they need NHS referrals. And there, on both of those, we're seeing in the last couple of years increased pressure, partly because some of these issues have been here for a while, things like body image, bullying, but also the pandemic has raised lots of issues. So in the middle of the pandemic, the kind of things we were seeing were around homeschooling, concerns around that, loneliness, people being away from friends, worried about jobs and things like that. Now we're seeing things like children being reluctant to go back to school, families having real troubles about children going back to school, as well as poverty, as well as the kind of the long-standing things we've talked about body image and bullying.
Yeah, I really appreciate your take on things. Imran Hussain is from Action for Children, and he's responding there to that report from the Children's Commissioner. Thank you very much indeed.
OK, it's time now for On Your Doorstep. Well, we've been getting out and about across the UK to see what you think about the day's biggest stories. This morning we are where?
No idea.
Just West
No
Midlands,
idea where
somewhere in the West Midlands, I'm guessing.
Well, Balvinder Sidhu will tell us. She's live for us this morning. Oh, you're in the heart of the West Midlands. You're in Dudley, I hear.
That's right, Eamonn. I am in Dudley. It's in the heart of the Black Country, and if you don't know much about the Black Country, it is the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. The Black Country is famous for its accent. It has its own dialect. It's also got its own day and its own flag. Now, this town is huge. I mean, it's got almost the same size of a population as cities like Worcester. I'm on a busy main road. To my right, there is a pub. To my left, there's a church. And we're going to speak to some people in Dudley today, what they think about the big stories of the day. And I can see there is a light on at this house. So I'm going to knock on the door, and I am hoping somebody is awake because it's almost 7 o'clock. Children are usually getting ready for school at this time. Oh, the door's opening. Good morning. Hello, I am Balvinder. I'm the West Midlands reporter for GBNews. You are live on TV and radio on the Great British Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel, Webster. Now, that's a lot to take in. Can you just tell me your name?
Hello, my name's Vicky.
Oh, lovely to meet you, Vicky. Look, we're here because we want to speak to people in Dudley. We want to find out what you think about the big stories of the day. Are you up for a bit of a chat?
Yes, coming in and have a cup of tea.
Oh, lovely. Oh, she's offering a cup of tea. Come on, we're going to go inside. Now, we're walking through one of the living rooms. And where are we going, Vicky?
Into the kitchen.
Right, come on, guys, come with me. We're in the sitting room now, walking past a lovely... Oh, gosh, it's nice and warm in here, isn't it? Oh, it's lovely in here, lovely and warm. Oh, hello, who's this? We've got someone else in here. All right. Hello, Jack. Nice to meet you.
Hello, I'm Vicky's son, Jack. I'm 22.
Oh, nice to meet you, Vicky. Vicky, you look too young to be the mother of a 22-year-old.
Oh, I've got a 30-year-old as well.
Excellent, excellent. So, have you guys lived in Dudley all your life?
Yes, I have, yes. Yes, and Jack, yes.
And what's it like living in Dudley? Do you like living in Dudley?
Oh, it's fun. We've got a lovely zoo and we've got a lovely Black Country Museum and canal walks. Yes, it's okay. We could do with a better town now, but we've got a Merry Hill Centre and it's easy to get to places like Birmingham and Wolverhampton. Excellent. So it's a good, we're in a good place to get to.
And Jack, you're a young person. Do you like living in Dudley? Because I've heard that lots of young people just want to leave Dudley and get out.
That is the case, yes. But we're hoping that this levelling up actually comes to fruition and it...
Brilliant. So, yeah, Dudley is part of that levelling up agenda we heard about last week. Now, Vicky, one of the big stories of the day is cost of living. The boss of Tesco has said that food prices are likely to go up in the spring. How worried are you about the cost of living?
Yeah, I'm very worried because at the moment nothing's cheap, but if it's going to go up sky high, it's going to make a lot of, myself as well, and a lot of people very vulnerable. It's going to be really hard, and the cost of eating as well is going up. Is it April?
April.
Yeah, it's going to cost ever such a lot, and that's going to...
What changes are you having to make to sort of manage your money?
Well, a lot, because at the moment, anything that I've got left over, like vegetables, and I make my own soup, and I'm very careful the way I shop, like day-to-day shopping. I'm very careful what I buy, and it's going to be really hard, so you've got to watch your pennies.
And also, the other thing, thank you so much for that, but there's one more thing, we're just running out of time. I want to get your opinion on the Queen. She's been on the throne for 70 years.
Oh, she's lovely, our Queen.
What do you think about the Queen?
Oh, she's lovely, 70 years. She's absolutely lovely. You've seen her from young and grow out gracefully. She's absolutely wonderful. I love our Queen.
Have you ever met her or seen her?
I've seen her in 1977 when she came to Dudley, and I was only about 7 myself. Yes, I can remember the day it was there, down by the zoo on that main road, by the station hotel, all up, you know, along that main road. It was absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
she's lovely.
Fantastic. And do you think the monarchy is here to stay?
Absolutely. It's in safe hands with Charles and Camilla.
And a bit later on, our lovely William and Kate.
Right, lots of monarchy fans here in Dudley this morning. Thank you so much. Look, they've got a fantastic breakfast here, so we're going to have a cup of tea, aren't we? And we'll be seeing you throughout the morning on the Great British Breakfast, on the hour, every hour, and we're going to meet lots of lovely people in Dudley, and we're going to celebrate this part of the West Midlands.
Balvinder, we're jealous of you now being in Vicky and Jack's house and getting that spread.
We don't have our usual croissant this morning.
Which are usually
a bit
plastic
old
or steel or a bit old. But Balvinder, I love how you're in there in Dudley. I used to go up to a brewery. It's a long story. In Dudley.
We don't have time.
But I just love the accent. It's
I
rich.
do. I love it.
It's realistic. It's honest to goodness. I just love it. I just love it. It's lovely to hear it, Balvinder, on screen.
Soul to the earth for the people of Dudley. That's what I say.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, not just to see it on screen, to hear it on the radio if you're listening as well. You're listening and watching Eamonn and Isabel here on Breakfast at GB News. 2 minutes now before, actually it's coming up to 1 minute before 7. We'll take a break. We're back after this.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Rising costs for millions as higher energy bills and tax rises hit the lowest paid.
Good morning to you. 1 minute past 7, Monday, February the 7th. You're listening and watching Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
Leading the news this morning, the cost of living crisis continues. Food prices are the latest thing to be hit, with the Tesco boss John Allen warning the worst is yet to come.
A series of royal gun salutes will mark the start of a year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70 years of service. Share with us your favourite memories of the Queen at gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet at gbnews.
Meanwhile, a plan to tackle the NHS backlog in England has been put on hold after the Treasury has blocked the move.
And examiners are being asked to mark GCSEs and A-levels more generously as part of a plan to manage the effects of missed learning during the pandemic.
So our top story this morning, millions of low-paid workers are facing a perfect storm of higher energy bills and tax rises while universal credit falls behind the cost of living.
Inflationary pressures are also driving up food prices as the Tesco boss warned that the worst is yet to come. Let's go to our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, who joins us now outside a Tesco. What part of the country are you in this morning, Paul?
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel. I'm in Surrey, in Addleston.
Oh, yes. Is that your local Tesco? Because you were there last week.
Yeah, it's not far away, yeah. But, yeah,
do you know, I'm telling the truth here. It is my local Tesco.
Yeah, it's right by my old school. So.
I'm not telling you a word of a lie. So there we go. But, you know, people who go and shop at that Tesco, they rely on their petrol, they rely on their food, they rely on a lot of hardware goods for around the house and things as well. And these rises we're talking about right across the board.
Yeah, absolutely, Eamonn. Yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news on a Monday morning, but when the chairman of Tesco says something, it really matters because it's Britain's biggest supermarket and it employs around 300,000 people, making it Britain's biggest private sector employer. Now, John Allen has said the worst is yet to come in an interview yesterday with the BBC. He said that heating or eating troubles them. He also pushed back at Jack Munro, the food poverty campaigners' claim that the basic goods in supermarkets, the basic staples like rice and pasta, are rising faster than inflation. He says that he can't speak for other supermarkets, but at Tesco, food inflation has remained at around 1% for the past 3 months. Food inflation, according to the British Retail Consortium for all supermarkets, currently running at around about 2.7%. That's up 0.3% on December. Remember, overall inflation, that is the cost of everything, currently 5.4% and expected to top 7% around about springtime. Also, the TUC, as you mentioned, warning that workers on universal credit, that is those who are earning but still on benefits, the number of those has risen to 1.3 million in the past 2 years, and they're saying that the government support that was announced last week, the help with energy bill rebates through council tax, through the council tax system, and also through your bill system, that's also woefully inadequate, according to the TUC. They surveyed 2,200 workers and they found that 1 in 8 are struggling to afford the basics. So a squeeze everywhere, and you can expect more warnings like this over the months to come.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the sign behind you, Tesco Extra. Does that mean extra prices, extra rises, extra sort of may go against them there? That's the trouble. Tesco
Every
Extra,
little helps.
We're going to pay extra
anymore.
for everything.
Yeah.
No, not their fault, obviously, just everybody's. Paul, appreciate it. We'll talk again later. Thank you very much indeed. At 7:05, these are your headlines.
The French President Emmanuel Macron is flying to Moscow to meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin in a bid to dial down tensions with Ukraine. Sources close to Macron said he aims to buy time and freeze the situation for several months, at least until the general election in France.
In Canada, Ottawa has declared a state of emergency. This is due to an ongoing demonstration against vaccine mandates led by truckers.
The Freedom Convoy has paralysed parts of the city for several days, some there saying they want to dissolve Canada's government.
The murderer of Millie Dowler, Levi Belfield, has reportedly admitted to killing a mother and her 6-year-old daughter in 1996.
A lawyer representing Michael Stone, who is actually serving life for the murder of Lynn and Megan Russell, says he's received a letter from Belfield detailing his involvement.
Students will be able to get higher GCSE and A-level grades this year, with boundaries set to be lowered. The Education Secretary says it will give students a fair chance of following disruptions caused by the pandemic.
And Senegal has claimed its first ever Africa Cup of Nations title with a 4-2 penalty shootout victory over Egypt. The team had previously reached the final in 2019 but missed out on the title after losing to Algeria. Why do these big tournaments always end out in penalty shootouts? I'm no football fan, but that is an observation, and it's very high stress.
I'm not a fan of penalties.
You're not?
Don't need to tell me
But at
about
least I can just
high-stress.
switch on for that bit. You know, I could just
My weekend was ruined by high-stress penalties.
Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well.
We've got some GB views this morning. Lots of you getting in touch after the last hour. David Gray on the Queen, which is a story we're about to talk about this morning. Her Majesty the Queen is a wonderful lady and everyone's grandmother. Great show, guys. Thanks, David.
Those of you in touch don't agree that Carrie, the Prime Minister's wife, Carrie Johnson, is a wonderful lady. I find her arrogant and she ought to keep her opinions to pillow talk and stay out of day-to-day governing. I mean, that is, if you believe the stories that are out there. So Zach's not a fan. Linda Hughes is not a fan. It's about the weight of evidence that Carrie's views repeatedly have caused Boris Johnson to overturn a course of action.
How do we know that? How do you know that's caused Boris Johnson to overturn it?
She did not do this openly. She did this privately, constantly.
Well, how do you know then? This is my point. Sorry.
It's reported.
It's rumour, but who's behind the rumours? People who've been ousted by the Johnson administration and got a vendetta.
I wonder who you could be talking about.
Oh, let me think. Someone who called her Princess Nutnuts, that lovely, charming pet name.
Princess Nutnuts?
Yeah, that's what Dominic Cummings calls her, Princess Nutnuts, which is a double insult, referring to her appearance as well as her mental capacity. So, he, you know...
But you could use that for a number of
You're going to steal it, aren't you?
Princess Nutnuts. There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the question of royalty,
yes.
A series of royal gun salutes will today mark the start of the year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70th year on the throne.
Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall say they are deeply conscious of the honour following a statement by Her Majesty on her Platinum Jubilee for Camilla to be known as Queen Consort when the Prince of Wales is crowned.
Or anything else. No, just Queen
No,
Consort.
not
yeah.
Queen Nutnuts.
Queen Elizabeth yesterday became the longest reigning monarch in British history, 70 years since the death of her father, King George VI, and her ascension to the throne. For more on this historic milestone, Angela Levin, who is a royal commentator and author, joins us now. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
Angela, I understand you're currently writing Camilla's biography.
I am, yes.
It looks as if it's going to end well, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and I'm absolutely delighted. I've been doing it for some months now, and it'll be coming out at the end of the summer. So it's been a real honour, actually. I'm delighted. So thank you for mentioning it.
We'll mention it, and I'll mention her as well. And I mean, this is my personal experience. I've met all of the royals.
All right.
No, but I have, and I would have...
No, fair enough.
You know, I honestly think, you know, there's some of them very, very sociable, like Prince Charles. I think he's incredibly sociable. But Camilla has...
you would say good crack.
She's great crack.
Yeah.
She's absolutely great crack.
She'd be fun to have a drink with.
There's an accessibility with her. She lets you in. I mean, maybe that's the role of a commoner, to be able to do that. But I have to say, not only do I find her committed to the causes that she represents, but really, as Isabel summed up there, she is personally, socially, great crack.
Yes, she absolutely is. And what Prince Charles has said once at a party that let her talk to somebody for 5 minutes and she'll get everything out about them, that they'll tell her everything. And she just loves listening to people. And I think she's more about how are you and what are you doing. She's not a sort of me character. She's got this wonderful mischievous look in her eyes. And she's sort of, it's that, I think, that warms you all the way through. She is absolutely delightful, but equally very determined that she does the things that she feels that are very important for the country and mainly for Prince Charles.
I just want to know, because obviously, you know, going back in time, it wasn't always so, was it, that the British public embraced her so warmly? And I wonder what you attribute the change to. Is it the passing of time? Is it the way she hasn't put a foot wrong since? Is it the way that Prince Charles's sons have so welcomed her into the fold? What do you make of her turnaround?
Well, I think that it's actually very interesting because in her middle 50s, she completely changed her life. She wasn't someone who wanted a big career. She was quite happy to read, go to parties and ride horses. But when she got married, she absolutely changed. And the more she did with charities, the more she's wanted to do. So she's been incredibly busy, and she's really opened up areas that would not have been accepted by the royal family, like violence towards women and rape. I think they sort of stepped back from that, but she's brought that forward. She's mentioned that. She's worked very hard. Old people, families who've got children who are probably not going to be here in a year or so. And she's been really caring about them. And I think that's what's really worked. And of course, there's this reading, which is very important to her. She's got a book club now, which she set up in the pandemic. And I think the pandemic has opened up what she's like. When she's with Prince Charles, she takes a backward step and she's there to support him, rather like Prince Philip was. She doesn't try and interfere. She doesn't try and outsmart him or rush ahead and shake hands with whoever's there. But she has opened up during the pandemic loads and loads of Zoom calls and talked to people, and she's got this great sense of humour, and they have warmed to her. So the public has seen her in a way that they had never seen her before. And she works incredibly hard, and I think the Queen feels quite rightly that she justifies it. No one would have known really, except Prince Charles, that how she would accept the huge role. She's also never complained about anything. We've never heard her from the time she was most disliked. Before she married Prince Charles, people were attacking her and being violent in every possible way. She never complained. She just got on with her life quietly. She stayed in her home for months on end because she couldn't face the nastiness. But she never blamed anybody, and she never tried to win people round. She just waited. And I believe she felt that if you give people time, they'll see what I'm like, and then they can make up their mind.
So
and I think
basically, yeah, and they have seemed to have made up their mind. And what you're really describing there, Angela, is it was a gradual build-up of her reputation. She just kept going and going, and it kept growing and growing. And Isabel was mentioning earlier the terrible abuse, terrible, there's no arguing about it, that, you know, whether rightly or wrongly, that she got at the start of this relationship. Yet she's come out the other side. Do you think there's a lesson in this somewhere for the Duchess of Sussex?
Very good question. I think the Duchess of Sussex has a very different personality. Camilla comes from a solid background. She had parents who loved each other and brought her up in a very easy way. I think that the Duchess of Sussex needs to prove herself non-stop. She takes on everything she possibly can because she needs to be out there in the front. She's not somebody who wants to work as a team, where Camilla doesn't want to put herself out in the front. She has to win. We've seen that with all these illegal charges. Very, very difficult, very, very difficult woman, I think.
Well, and you know, of course, the last time I spoke to you, I think it was over a book that you'd written, a biopic on Prince Harry.
Yeah, I did his biography, yes.
Yeah, the Prince Harry.
For a long time, you're right.
Well, a lot of things happen, or have happened in that time. The Prince Harry you knew then, going back 5-6 years ago, to the Prince Harry you're reading about now, or observing now, what would you like to say? Are they like two different people, or what would you say?
Unrecognisable. I spent over a year with Prince Harry. He was charismatic, he was intuitive like his mother, brilliant with people who'd been damaged physically or mentally, very funny. There was the occasional dark cloud that came over him. You could see that he was, he had difficulties in his life, but he was terrific. I really enjoyed every minute I spent with him. But now he's bitter, he's angry, he feels hard done by, which is, of course, astonishing for somebody who's living in a £11 million house with 16 toilets. And he feels he's got to have revenge. I think that's the real word, and that's what's so terrible, that he wants revenge on the royal family for how they've treated him and his mother. And I think he's writing a memoir towards the end of the year, and I think he's going to attack left, right, and centre. He has also changed what he feels about his father. I remember when Prince Harry was doing on the Today programme, guest editor of the Today programme. He could have several people along who he wanted to talk to, which he did, about various issues that he cared about. And he also chose to have his father there. And it was the most moving conversation you could imagine, where he apologised for being rude about him, how he just realised as he'd got older how wonderful he was, and how he started with worrying about the climate change and plastics, which he thought was nonsense, and now he realised it's terrific. He was ahead of his time, and it was very warming. And now suddenly he's a monster. He just doesn't like his father and do anything to try and upset him, which of course
Angela,
he's succeeding in.
What the Queen has done so marvellously is move the conversation away from her naughty son and her difficult grandson onto her daughter-in-law in a positive light. And isn't it lovely to be talking about something positive connected to the royal family? Angela, we have to leave it there. I could talk to you all morning. Lovely to speak to you as always.
Thank you, Angela Levin, there. The exams regulator says examiners are being asked to mark papers more generously for students taking tests this year.
Yes, it's all part of a plan to try and manage the effects of the pandemic, considering the effects that have been on learning time. Well, our East Midlands reporter, Will Hollis, joins us live from Nottingham. Is this a form of, well, I don't know, dumbing down, cheating?
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of young people as well as adult learners in Nottingham today, as well as many parts of the country, who are quite relieved to see this news today. Two elements to it: that the exams are going to be marked for GCSEs and A-levels a little bit more generously, a little bit more leniently. The content is still there. I wouldn't refer to it as maybe dumbing down, but certainly going to be a bit more guidance as to what would actually be tested. The students will be tested upon. That's one element of it in terms of generous marking. The second element of it revealed today certain topics for most subjects. There's a couple of subjects that haven't had any topics revealed. One of them is English literature, another one of them is history, but most subjects are going to have a bit of a clear guidance as to what students are generally going to be asked about. It's not necessarily an exhaustive list. As I say, it's just a bit of a clear guidance so that for the next period of time, as students and teachers do prepare for those exams later in 2022, they can more focus into the detail of what they'd like, how best they can prepare for their exams for GCSEs and A-levels. And we've got a quote here from Dr. Joe Saxton, who's the chief regulator Ofqual. The intention is to set grades roughly somewhere between 2019 and 2021. And advanced information published today is one of the ways that they are supporting students to have that certainty as they prepare to show what they know and can do. They're also ensuring there is a safety net for students with a generous approach to grading. And now we've heard Nadeem Zahawi, the Education Secretary, as well as the government, back in that stance that exams are going to be happening later this year in 2022. We know the disruption from the pandemic has been significant. That's why all of this is happening. While there are certain grey areas, certain black spots in many students and adult learners' education, there is still maybe a little bit of a more normal year from the last year, certainly considering the comparison between 2021 and 2020, when many students didn't get to sit their exams at all and teachers marked their grades instead. So a lot of excited and happy students today to see that they are going to be given a bit more guidance.
And we're very happy and excited. We're talking to you there, Will, and we're watching, if we just go back to full frame there, please. We're just watching a beautiful sunset edging its way up behind the town hall, or sunrise there, sorry.
Yeah. I didn't even notice. I was just in awe of beautiful pink sky.
It's framing you very well, Will. Thank you very much.
Halo.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers, cheers. The sun's coming up in your area. It's a bit chilly out there, but I hope it'll be a nice day.
Yeah, if you have a nice sunrise, send us your pics. Why not? We love a little sunrise shot of a morning, don't we?
We do, of a morning. Next, we're going to have all the best moments from an absolutely packed weekend of sport, including FA Cup holders Leicester being knocked out of the competition. Looking ahead to today's weather, and Britain is looking increasingly cloudy after a sunny and frosty start with some rain arriving. The details: the southwest of England will end the morning on a generally dry but cloudier note than you'll see first thing, and a slight breeze will also develop. Some cloud will also be edging in across the southeast, although here the sun will still be making an appearance at times.
Heading across to Wales, there'll be quite a thick blanket of cloud, giving the odd spot of drizzle over the hills. The Midlands will be mainly dry, although they'll have lost the early morning bright spells, being replaced by increasing amounts of miserable cloud and a bit of west to southwesterly breeze.
A little bit of patchy rain likely over the Pennines, but to the east of high ground, many parts of northeast England will be dry, albeit on the cloudy and rather breezy side.
For much of Scotland, the middle of the day will be unsettled with outbreaks of rain in places, quite strong winds. Edinburgh and some other eastern spots, though, should just about escape dry.
Northern Ireland, some rain likely to affect here, and it'll be light, it'll be patchy, it'll mainly fall over hills. It'll be mild with a keen wind blowing. The afternoon and evening will be mostly cloudy with patchy rain and strengthening winds. Gales and heavier rain will affect parts of the north, and that is how the weather is shaping up this Monday morning.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It was a vicious weekend in the FA Cup, but I suppose you could say it was the magic of the Cup. Some amazing underdogs coming through. Here's Paul Coit to tell us all about it. I actually think we should start with Boreham Wood.
I think so as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
incredible.
vicious. It was really vicious.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable result. Boreham Wood, from the National League, they thought, and their manager as well, Luke Garrard, he thought they were going to get done for 8. He thought that Bournemouth were probably going to score 8 goals against them. And they go out, and that's the magic of the FA Cup. They go and beat Bournemouth. Bournemouth have been a little off form, but nobody really expected that Boreham Wood would actually do it.
From the 5th tier?
Yeah, from the 5th tier of football. And, you know, it's just, I thought it was a really good weekend of FA Cup football.
Well, I didn't. But anyway.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I refer to the weekend, I mean from Saturday to Sunday.
onwards.
I don't mean Friday, because that doesn't really count as the weekend, does it?
So they're from the fifth tier, of course,
This is the first time you've never wanted to talk about Manchester United.
Not at all. Kidderminster nearly did it against West Ham, of course.
Oh, that was so unlucky, wasn't it?
And Forest did do it against the holders Leicester.
Yeah, absolutely. Leicester were really poor, I thought, against Nottingham Forest. Forest were always going to be really up for this game because they see them. I think Forest see Leicester, it's probably fair to say, as more rivals than maybe Leicester do the other way. Because, I mean, we all remember the great halcyon days of Nottingham Forest under Brian Clough and those great years. It's been tough for them, and they've been bad, you know. And Chris Hughton was the last manager. Just nobody seems to be able to make it work. Steve Cooper's come in, and it's just said, go and play. And now it seems to be working. I thought they were great against Leicester. So score 3 goals in 9 minutes. Leicester just dead on their feet, just had nothing to respond to. And I thought Nottingham Forest are great. So maybe good times coming back for them.
Frank Lampard sprinkling a bit of magic dust over Everton as well.
But he's doing the same thing. He seems to be saying to Everton, go out and play. This is what we all like to see, is just a little more free-flowing football, which is what Rafa Benitez didn't seem to do. And they've gone out and played well. So they've got to play Boreham Wood now in the next round of the Cup.
Incredible.
So that will be interesting.
African Cup of Nations.
Yes.
So Senegal beat Egypt, but it's on penalties.
It was on penalties, although, interestingly, Sadio Mane, because people were saying it's like Salah against Mane. Sadio Mane gets a penalty for Senegal, and he misses the penalty. So it goes to penalties, and who scores the winning penalty but Sadio Mane, whereas Mo Salah, actually didn't get to take a penalty because he was down to the 5th penalty taker, which is ridiculous because, therefore, he never got to take one. So get your good penalty takers in early.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to waste it. So Senegal will win.
It's cold enough here for the Winter Olympics, and you've got some good stuff to report.
I do. The first one is that, actually, the upsetting thing is the fact that Isabel's not wearing the coat.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Eamonn's just admitted that he made up that it was smelly just for good TV.
No, I didn't. It was smelly. I may have made
Paul
it
has been so upset all weekend. He felt ostracised.
I did.
He felt humiliated.
I did feel humiliated.
He felt deflated after his little...
Mangy, mingy old coat.
Mangy, mingy old coat.
Yeah, full of Alsatian
It
hair.
didn't smell. It was lovely and I loved it.
Apparently
Thank you.
it's 1976 yak hair. I'll have
Oh,
it.
yak hair. Now you're making me feel a bit sick.
Bruce Moat and Jen Dodds, mixed doubles curling. It's every 4 years that all of a sudden we become curling experts in the house and the stones and everything.
Yeah.
Is it done it for you, the curling?
In the house. You have any stones in the house?
Yeah.
Got the mop out. Going ahead.
You just do that in the kitchen.
No, not even remotely.
Not even
remotely.
Well, anyway, I think there's still hope for you. Playing Norway in the semi-final at 12 o'clock. And the Big Air, which I know is your particular favourite event.
So you don't mean air as in H-E-I-R. You mean air as in A-I-R.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Essex, but it's air, as in air, Big Air.
Yeah, what does that mean?
The Big Air, and I'm not looking down at this, it's pretty much freestyle, so they'll ski or go on a...
skateboard thing, snowboard?
Yeah, snowboard. And as you go up the ramp, it's how many tricks you can do whilst you're in the air. Hence the Big Air. Now, Kirsty
and that's
Muir,
an Olympic sport.
It is an Olympic sport. She's 17.
Are you joking? The skill that is involved in
but
that.
it's for kids to do.
It is no different from, say, surfing in the Olympics or skateboarding, which is now an Olympic sport, isn't it? Am I right?
Unfortunately, yes, it is. Yeah, that is, I'm afraid. Yeah.
God, dear.
But look, Kirsty Muir is 17. She's the youngest in our squad, and she's fantastic. Now, this is what she did, and she did the dub 12 trick, which is the 2 flips, the 1.5 rotation, and ski grab.
Well, that sounds pretty impressive to me. No different from gymnastics, but on skis. I think that's amazing.
In a coat.
And also special words of reference to Alex Tilley in the giant slalom.
Yep.
And Elias Smedding in speed skating as well.
Speed skating.
Amazing.
All good.
Love it all.
Paul, got to go because we've got a big politician to talk to.
We do.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. See you in a bit. Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
OK, Labour is warning pensioners could face a tough, bleak year, as analysis suggests. They could see a cut of up to £355 a year. That's despite a 3.1% basic state pension increase in April. The party saying that when set against rising living costs, it falls inadequately short.
Yeah, well, for more on this, let's go to the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, Jonathan Ashworth, who joins us now. All of this, plus the Bank of England governor saying don't ask for a pay rise. They're also warning inflation could be 7.25 by April. All very, very depressing, Jonathan, and what on the face of it may look like a generous increase in the state pension, 3.1. Just explain to people why it's so useless.
Absolutely. Can I just say, though, as the MP for Leicester, it was quite difficult listening to that sports segment then. I mean, the defence was terrible yesterday, wasn't it?
But you can't have an excuse. You got your backsides whipped well and truly.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, shocking. But I mean, Forest were good, but anyway, shocking. Anyway, moving on. Eamonn, look, we're really worried about what's happening with the cost of living. You've got energy bills rocketing, you've got prices going up in the shops, you've got the Bank of England saying this is going to be the biggest squeeze on incomes for 30 years, a 2% fall in real incomes, and actually pensioners are going to be worse off as well, because what's happening today in the House of Commons, Boris Johnson is asking MPs to endorse a plan to give pensioners a real terms cut in the value of their pension, because the pension isn't going up in line with these high inflation rates. It means a pensioner is going to lose around £222 in real terms, or a couple is going to lose £355. So any help that they may have been getting on energy bills completely wiped out by these real terms cuts in the pension for pension.
You can vote against this in the House today, yeah?
Well, the problem is, if you voted it down, pensioners wouldn't get anything. At the moment, they're getting what Boris Johnson is proposing is 3%, but 3% is a cut when inflation is running over 6% across the year. So if you voted it down, pensioners wouldn't get anything, which would be really, really unfair. But the reason this is happening is because government incompetence, really. They've pegged the rise to what inflation was back in September. But actually now, inflation is heading to 6%, could be at 7%. And that overall means not just pensioners are going to be really hard hit, it means everyone's going to be hard hit. So, for example, a working person on average earnings of around £30,000, because of the big tax rises that are coming, the 10% increase in national insurance and inflation, so wages will stagnate, they're going to be worse off to the tune of £400. This is a real crisis, and I'm afraid the government don't have a plan because they're just mired in all these scandals about parties and all the rest of it, rather than focusing on working people, families and pensioners.
It's interesting, though, that you will then have to vote for it today. I just want to give you a chance to respond to the government, who say they do have a plan for all of this. They say we're providing support worth £12 billion this financial year, which will help the cost of living. An extra £9 billion has been announced to protect against the impact of rising global energy prices. Combined with last year's 2.5% increase to pensions, we have ensured pensioners' incomes have been protected.
Look, you've got stories of pensioners faced with impossible choices between heating and eating. You've got stories of pensioners not going for showers, not using the oven and eating a sandwich instead because they're trying to save on their heating bills. And I'm afraid what was announced last week by the Chancellor just doesn't go far enough. For a start, there's 1 million or so pensioners who might not get any help because they'd have to apply for it themselves. And given that only around 65% of pensioners apply for the pension credit, that leaves around £1.8 billion worth going unclaimed. I'm not convinced the government's got a plan to get the extra £150 to every single pensioner. Secondly,
Jonathan, what can you do about this? You can't vote it down, you say. You can come on shows like ours and you can object to this and you can point out by how much worse off pensioners will be this year. But really, like everything else, this tsunami of price increases is coming our way, their way, everybody's way, and there doesn't seem to be a lot we can do about it.
Well, we've put forward a plan. We'd take VAT off the fuel bills for a start, and then we would extend something called the Warm Homes discount, and by doing that, would give everybody, or the poorest and those in middle incomes, millions of people would get £600 off their energy bill. So we've got an alternative plan to the one in which the government have got. So, and the government can still take up our plan. So we're putting it forward. We're asking them to consider this. Look, pensioners have given so much to our country. I don't think it's fair that pensioners are impoverished, and that's basically what Boris Johnson is going to do today.
OK, Jonathan Ashworth, interesting talking to you. Jonathan Ashworth is the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Ashworth outlining his case there, and we're talking about facts and figures and how much people will be actually worse off. What is your story? What does this actually mean to you? What is the reality of this? How frightened are you about the price rises that are yet to come? We hear Asda saying food going up by, not Asda, Tesco,
yeah.
By 5%. We're seeing a cut in real terms for your pension despite an increase of 3.1%. We're talking about inflation running well over 5%. Don't be asking for a pay increase.
Said the Bank of England governor.
Depressing.
Miserable.
Yeah, depressing. So tweet us at GB News, or you can email gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Well, on that cheery note, we're going to take a quick break. It's 7:37, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with your newspapers just in a couple of minutes.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very shortly, we will be going through the newspapers with Andre Walker and Polly Mackenzie, and obviously they'll be answering the burning issues raised by the members of the press. In my particular case, there's a burning issue that I want to settle, which I raised a week ago, and it's to do with this, right? I just have to take this out. OK, so Isabel doesn't know this, but this is a bottle of Common or Garden mouthwash, right? There other mouthwashes are available, just happens to be the brand that I am using at the moment. So let me tell you, dear viewers and listeners, for a week, and I should describe to you on radio what we're going to do here. For a week, I have been trying to open this bottle. For one solid week, right? So every day, don't touch.
Oh, I'm itching too. I'll get it in one.
For one solid week, I come out. My hands are a little bit wet, Andre, I have to say.
Oh,
You're obsessed with clammy hands today.
But so am I there brushing my teeth, there's a bit of toothpaste on my hand, or I've done some shaving, whatever. But Polly, every time I go to open this, my hand just goes...
Well, I can see what you're doing wrong already.
Do you?
Yes.
So Isabel's saying, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy.
Let me have it.
It's so easy to do these things. So, right, so there it is, the challenge.
Right, OK, you find the bit that's squeezy.
Yeah, that's right.
Squeeze it together.
Done. Do
designed to be childproof.
Do you know what makes me laugh about this? Eamonn believes this is groundbreaking news and every viewer knows how to do
But you've got to squeeze it.
So, look, I'll give you a little trick. The side bits, that's the squeezy bit.
I'm speechless.
Oh.
Wait a minute, I've
You know what?
It's difficult
I've
being
squeezed,
Eamonn.
I'll give you a tenner if you drink
I've
it.
rubbed. No, don't
drink it.
swallow. You've got to
swallow
spit that now. Wait. Oh my gosh!
Glass. Not on me. Not on me.
Oh gosh!
No,
This is
I didn't
taking a
realise
turn.
I was going to swallow that. Would that have rot my insides?
Well, it would have burnt your esophagus,
Alcohol as well.
probably.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for saving my
No
life.
worries, I'll do it again many times over. I'm sure.
I'm so amazed. Like, so I tried everything.
It's not
I pushed
down, it's
I
squeezed.
squeezed.
Yeah.
Show me again.
Right. See these two bits? There's no ridges.
Why doesn't it just say? Why doesn't it say on that? Squeeze these two bits.
I think these
Because
little
everybody
arrows-
knows.
Everyone
Everybody
knows.
doesn't know. I think.
Bless him, he brought in his prop and everything.
It's been sitting there for a week unused, and my breath has been getting worse and worse. There it is. That's absolutely incredible. But why? I do think things are very difficult to open.
I can't believe you're broadcasting this on national TV.
That's a matter.
I mean, what's gone
This is a
wrong?
matter of interest to people. Why can't it just go back to screw tops?
By the way, you can tell which pound shop you got that from as well.
Right, Isabel, over to you.
Okay, look, talking of burning esophagus,
you did that so
burning issue.
easily.
Yeah, sorry, I win.
You've made me look a fool.
I'm sorry. I'll try harder next time not to. Let's turn our attention inside The Guardian, page 7. Kwasi Kwarteng has basically shown how disconnected he is from the average person. Tell us more about this story. It's all about fraud.
So, Kwasi Kwarteng said yesterday that fraud is not a crime that people experience in their daily lives. And, you know, with more than 3 million cases a year and it having absolutely soared during the pandemic, to be that out of touch with crime, he said this on the Sunday morning political shows, and I've been cross for 24 solid hours about it. Because if you can't understand the nature of crime, you can't possibly police it. He did this because the Prime Minister said in Parliament that crime was falling. Crime is falling if you take out the crimes that are rising, namely fraud. So I can understand why, as a minister, he's trying to defend the Prime Minister. He's trying to say, oh, well, it's perfectly fine to take out fraud. It's not fine to take out fraud. This is the volume crime of our age. You know, over the course of because of social and economic change, crime changes, right? So burglary used to happen more because people's expensive stuff was in their houses. Now, mugging and theft has gone up because lots of people are carrying about hundreds of pounds worth of stuff in their hand or their handbags. And so burglary is down, theft is up. You can't just take theft out and say, oh, it doesn't matter because, you know, it's not what people experience. It's nonsense. Millions of people are constantly attacked by fraudsters trying to get their phone number, trying to figure out if, you know, is this text a real one? People knocking on doors, selling fake vaccines, people taking absolute, trying to think of a polite way of saying it, so I'm just not going to, exploiting vulnerable older people, selling them dodgy home repairs.
Stealing their pets.
Identity fraud.
This is the thing that's going up. And it's where organised crime is investing. Yep. They are investing in online crime. And if the government doesn't understand that, they cannot keep us safe.
I suppose, Andre, the answer to this is that luckily Kwasi Kwarteng isn't the Home Secretary. He isn't responsible for the statistics when it comes to crime. He is just the Business Secretary.
He's also the only other Kwasi other than Quasimodo.
Oh, God.
Anyway, we go really plumbing the depths now. I'll tell you something that I always worry about with fraud. I think people are too shy about reporting it because you see loads of low-level frauds where somebody gets, you know, a £20 charge for something and they never claim it back or call the police or whatever. Similarly, there are large numbers of people, I imagine, watching this show who found it very hard to prove a fraud because instead, quite often it said, well, this is a civil offence, you know, you were owed money or whatever.
First of all, it's not clear who you turn to.
That's right.
Second, when you try and report these things, you're usually just held on a line forever and ever as well. And thirdly, as a victim of that sort of fraud, of which £30,000 was stolen from my bank accounts, turned out to be my tax bank account, just as out of interest. But the judge, and the guy who stole it from me and another television broadcaster, said it wasn't really a crime. He didn't say it. He saw it as a low level. There were no. What did he say? There was no one harmed in this crime. Do you know the stress that I went through?
Absolutely.
Not trusting anybody around you. Who did I give this number to? Who copied this number? What shop did I go into? And they said it was a victimless crime. That was a victimless crime.
It does matter because, as the business secretary, essentially what we've decided is to let businesses absorb these costs so that we all pay for it in terms of the prices that we pay. It's kind of recycled into the costs of our bank account, that lots of this fraud will get refunded. We've basically decided to tolerate this crime and pay for it collectively, instead of to actually take it seriously and find ways to police it.
I discovered to my horror that that there were 2 Uber accounts using my bank card, one of them being mine, the other one ordering hundreds of pounds worth of alcohol from Uber Eats. And amazingly, Uber wouldn't tell me the name of the person on the account for GDPR reasons. But of course, then when you say, no, somebody is using my bank details to illegally order food and drink online, forget about it. Forget about it. All you can attempt to do is go to your bank and potentially get some of the money back. I couldn't get all of it.
How did you know that was connected to Uber?
Well, because I started seeing Uber bills coming up on my bank card.
Right.
So, of course, I said to them, I said, well, hang on a second, it's my bank card. And they said, well, we can't tell you who's using it. I said, but it's mine. Now, of course, the point is, I'm not having to go necessarily Uber. We're not alive to these low-level fraud activities, but they go on absolutely all the time.
OK.
Interesting.
If you've got a story in that, let us know at GB News or gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Andre, let's turn to the Times front page. Church leaders could be appointed to full-time cabinet-style roles, such as Brexit bishop or COVID bishop.
Right, I've got to be honest with you. I picked this because Bishop of Brexit just sounded absolute genius. Although, to be honest with you, it's probably more sensible than it sounds initially. Effectively, I think what they want to do is move from bishops being territorial to them looking at particular issues, which I think is probably going to be more useful. Now, I'm not sure that we want bishops going on about Brexit. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not that keen on bishops getting involved in politics, but I have to say, I think times are changing and the Church of England often doesn't change with it. And I think if you had somebody who was effectively like your lead on COVID, your lead on poverty, your lead on fuel poverty, then maybe that would make sense. It feels quite political, but maybe this is changing times. This is what we need.
Paulie, talking about changing times, Primark, the department store, seem to be stuck in the past. Tell us about the outfits they sell to girls and boys.
Well, it's the write-up of a Twitter thread that went viral just yesterday, because basically all the girls' clothes say, be happy, be kind, be good, be grateful. And the boys' clothes say, power, no one can stop you, you can achieve anything, I'm a superhero. And if those are the messages that we are literally enveloping our children in, you don't want to kind of get too worried about like the patriarchy, but I think it changes the aspirations and the feelings of children in a really profoundly unhelpful way. Because you know what? Girls can be superheroes too, and boys should be grateful and kind and thoughtful. All of this just needs to change. We shouldn't be associating everything about the way you present yourselves in the world with gender.
Hang on a second. Can I stop you there? Because this is what I find curious. Is the allegation that Primark is producing products that people don't want in order to push some sort of sexist agenda, or are they in fact just making stuff that people buy because their job is to sell clothes?
I think it becomes kind of cyclical and self-reinforcing, right? Because if you go into Primark to buy girls' clothes, that's all you can get is stuff that is absolutely pink and absolutely has all of this messaging on, or possibly has a Disney character.
They're not doing it because they don't sell them.
No, but the problem is that there's no choice. And the places where there are choice are much more upmarket chains like John Lewis, right? But huge numbers of families, there's no way they can afford John Lewis clothes. And so I think it's about choice. Absolutely, of course, pink T-shirts that say be kind, not a problem. But you should think about having a wider offering to the kids, I think, and also doing more in terms of just simply non-gendered clothes. Like when I was little, there was like red and rainbows and dungarees that I inherited from my brother who's older than me, and we shared. Now everything's gone to this, like there's the girls' colour toy and the boys' colour toy. And it's so that they have to sell you 2 of them.
I don't.
Instead of basically enabling families to save money by buying a single unisex.
I don't think I had a new item of clothes until I was about 18.
Yeah, me neither.
I went to university and bought my first pair of jeans.
I have to say, as I was tucking my daughter into bed last night, the last things I said to her, I don't know why, I was just saying to her, if you be anything tomorrow, be kind. I said that to her. And she said, be bold, be strong, be kind. Recited it back to me. She'd obviously learnt that at nursery. So it doesn't matter what we teach them at home or what they learn in the shops. They're taught at school anyway to be nice.
I love the way the kid defeated the journalist.
I know, she does. She's quite something. There we go.
You can only be kind if everybody's kind back to you. I always say that.
Well, you can kill things with kindness. Even if people are bad to you,
Sometimes
you
I just
kill it
rather
with kindness.
kill
That's my theory.
But anyway, I used to... You know that I used to be a trainee manager in Primark.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, back in the day before you bought your first car with your winnings from there.
Department 3, ladies' underwear.
Oh, God.
That's very true.
This has been the most extraordinary pay-per-view I've ever
stories
experienced.
about the returns.
Oh, no.
That was a very good story as well. We didn't call it Primark.
Save that for the break.
We couldn't call it Primark, no, I'd call it Primark.
Oh, Primark.
So that's why, by me saying this, people will say to me, you have sold out, you've become so English, look at you, Primark. No, it's Primark.
I have to say, I did enjoy you calling her the monarch earlier. How was it you guys were talking about the Queen, Her Majesty, the monarch? And then, sorry. Let's move on.
Another racist comment.
Oh, God.
Time now for On Your Doorstep.
OK, we are going, I believe, to the West Midlands, Dudley, no less, to have a chat with Balvinda. Very good morning to you, Bal. Who are you talking to this time?
Good morning. Yes, we're in Dudley, in the heart of the Black Country, which is the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. There's huge history here. We have a castle that sits on a hill with a zoo on site, which is quite unique for a town like this. And it is in the West Midlands. There are lots of people. It's an old market town. It's got the population, the equivalent of a big city like Worcester. And we're in a quiet cul-de-sac now because we thought, look, let's get around. Let's get talking to as many people as possible. So we're going to go to this lovely, large, detached house on my right, and we're going to be knocking on the door, and we're going to speak to, well, we're hoping they'll let us in and have a quick chat about the big stories of the day, including the Queen, having been reigning for 70 years. So let's see who's behind this door. I'll ring the doorbell, actually. Somebody's opening the door. Oh, hello. Good morning. Good morning. My name's Balvinda. I'm from GBNews. You're live on TV and radio on the Great British Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel. Webster. What's your name?
My name's Surinder, and I'm from Dudley, yeah.
Oh, lovely, Surinder. Nice to meet you. Now, look, we're here today to talk to you about the big stories of the day. We want to hear your opinion. We want to hear what you think about Dudley. Are you up for a quick chat?
Quickly, join me.
Oh,
breakfast
brilliant.
is getting ready.
Oh, breakfast is ready. Oh, what's for breakfast this morning?
We're having a paratha, which is a traditional Indian meal.
Oh, a paratha. Oh, that sounds nice.
Yes.
I know what that is. So just follow me through. Oh, hello. We've got somebody here. Hello, and what's your name?
Kashmir Kaur.
Kashmir Kaur. And Kashmir Kaur, what are you doing?
I make paratha.
Oh, you're making paratha. Oh,
yeah.
Lovely. Oh, look at that. That is, what is a paratha? Can you explain?
It's Indian flatbread, like a chapati, which we have for normal breakfast, yeah, traditional breakfast.
Brilliant.
Best way to start a Monday morning is with a paratha.
Well, to be honest, I do know what a paratha is because I actually make one of those for my 9-year-old son before he goes to school pretty much most mornings. It's what he likes to have for his breakfast. So, thank you so much for letting us into your house. We want to know, how long have you lived in Dudley for?
I've lived in Dudley all my life, and then I moved out and away, lived in London for about 15 years and lived in Australia, and then I've just come back home.
And do you like it here?
Yes, it's really nice. To say we're fortunate to live where we live. It's a beautiful place. We've got fresh air. We've got plenty of walking spaces. Just need the town centre to be upgraded. That's what I really want. Once that's ready and the trams are working, it'll be a brilliant place to live.
So you're the second person to tell me that today, that the town centre needs regeneration. What is it about the town centre?
Just lack of variety in shops. Parking's a massive issue. And again, once Maryhill came up, the vibrancy of Dudley Town Centre went down. So there is that correlation. I think if the parking was right and the shops were there, the town centre would be great, and then people would come into Dudley and obviously invest in Dudley.
Also, we're talking about cost of living. Food prices may go up in the spring. How worried are you about the rising cost of living?
Really worried. Every time you go to the shop, prices are always rising. And then you go to the forecourts and you see the petrol prices and you think, oh gosh, it used to be a lot cheaper than this. And every time you just don't know what the prices are going to be. You can't budget, you can't get your shopping order. It's very difficult to do that now.
And you live with your mum here, is that right?
Yeah.
So is she worried because she's older?
Yeah, she's always worried. She's just said, can we put the heating on, stuff like that. Things that she would never do before. We're just asking, is it worth, going on to a water meter rather than having our water bills paid that way. So just ways of saving money, really, and what suits you. But yeah, it's worrying. It really is worrying.
Have you experienced this before? Have you ever had to budget like this bbefore?
Never had to budget like this before. We were fortunate, we were all working in the family, and then money was coming in, and everything was quite stable. But the last 2 years after lockdown, particularly after lockdown, the shortages are there, and we don't know when they're going to end. That's the problem.
So the other thing we want to talk to you about is the Queen. She celebrated her Platinum Jubilee yesterday. What do you think about her and her reign?
Yeah, she's like a model for every family in Britain, and obviously being placed in that level of responsibility and in the public eye is very tough. And she's really handled the family really well, and I think that's what we all kind of strive for. Strong mother, strong father, giving us good values. But also representing the country, and she does a lot of good for the country, and hopefully, long may she live more.
Excellent, excellent. And your mum here, she's making the paratha. I just want to show you while she's making it. What do you think about the Queen?
I keep a Jubilee cup.
Oh, Jubilee cup.
Yes, for the Queen.
Oh, so she's got a Jubilee cup for the Queen. Oh, wow, look at that. It's 1952 to 1977. So you feel very proud of the Queen?
Yeah, I like Queen.
You like the Queen?
Yeah,
she likes the Queen, yeah.
Oh, we love the monarchy in this house, don't we?
Yeah. Obviously, she's done a great job, and we really love the way she's working with her family. They have problems in their family, and the way they're trying to solve them is really good. And that's something really important. Family is very important in Asian culture or any culture, and that's one thing about Dudley's. Very friendly. Families, generations have lived here, and the generations will live here longer.
Excellent, that's great. Thank you so much. Like I said, we're in Dudley throughout the morning. We're going to head into the town now, and we'll see you in an hour, Eamonn and Isabel.
Thank you, Balvinda. Thank you very much.
I've seen you making something similar on your stories on Instagram. It's quite a skill, very impressive. We'll be back with you in a bit. Thank you.
We're approaching top of the hour. We're going to be back right after this.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Rising costs for millions as higher energy bills and tax rises hit the lowest paid.
Good morning. It is 8 o'clock on Monday, February the 7th. You're watching Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
And leading the news this morning, the cost of living crisis continues. Food prices are the latest thing to be hit, with the boss of Tesco's warning the worst is yet to come.
A series of royal gun salutes will mark the start of a year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70 years of service to the nation. Share with us your favourite memories of Her Majesty at GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Meanwhile, a plan to tackle the NHS backlog in England has been put on hold after the Treasury blocked the move.
And the Mayor of Ottawa declares a state of emergency in the Canadian capital over the so-called serious danger and threat posed by truckers protesting against the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. We'll have the latest for you on that.
Millions of low-paid workers are facing a perfect storm of higher energy bills and tax rises, while universal credit falls behind the cost of living.
Inflationary pressures are also driving up food prices as the Tesco boss has warned that the worst is yet to come. Let's bring in our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, who joins us this morning from Addlestone in Surrey. And Paul, of course, we've heard about all the different forms of increasing prices, but now to hear this from the boss of Tesco's, it's going to be a tough year.
Yeah, absolutely. Morning, Isabel. Morning, Eamonn. When it comes from the boss of Tesco's, it matters because Tesco's is the UK's largest private sector employer, has around 300,000 employees, I should say. It's also Britain's biggest UK supermarket, and the boss, John Allen, telling the BBC yesterday that he is warning the worst is yet to come. He's also saying that by the spring we could see food inflation at 5%. 5%. Excuse me. It's currently 2.7%. That's up 0.3% from December. Overall inflation, of course, currently running at 5.4 and set to hit 7% by the spring. So he's warning that things will get worse before they get better. He's also been pushing back on Jack Monroe, the food poverty campaigner, who last week was claiming that the basics such as pasta and rice at the supermarkets, they've been going up faster than inflation. The chairman of Tesco's, though, saying that he can't talk about other supermarkets, but when it comes to Tesco, he's claiming that's simply not true and that food inflation there has only been 1% for the last 3 months. So add that to the warning from the TUC as well today, saying that 1.3 million workers on universal credit now in the last 2 years. That's way up on what it was a couple of years ago, and you can see that there is a real cost on a real squeeze, I should say, on the cost of living at the moment, and it is set to continue for many more months. You can expect to hear more warnings like this and more pressure on the government to do a U-turn when it comes to that rise in national insurance, which is on the way in April.
Very much indeed, appreciate that. And of course, the more food prices go up, the more people make bad choices, don't they?
Yeah, they go for the discount things, and often they're
stuff that lasts a long time and whatever. So it is just a pity, but it is a terrible storm that is brewing, and it's coming everybody's way, because you can't think of something that's not actually rising. Fresh food, processed food is rising, clothes are rising, the price of cars are rising. And this is bound to have an effect, which means that, car sales are bound to fall as a result of that.
Yeah, disposable income down.
Yeah.
It's all problematic. Look, it's a big worry. Let us know your experiences. We love to hear your thoughts on the big issues that we're talking about. Yeah,
exactly. Do you have any? I mean, is part of it? When people go out and they do things like grow their own.
Some people do enjoy tightening their belts, don't they? Buckling up and counting. I don't know. I think some people do get off on that. Not us.
No, but it's like having a diet. You're right.
Yeah, some people,
it's pain, but it's sort of like you feel better for it. Yeah, maybe. You know, but I do believe, you see, I blame it all on Christmas. Christmas is a complete overindulgence, and it's just...
Don't get me started.
You don't... Well, do you agree with me?
Oh, totally. I wish we'd just...
She agrees with me.
Yeah!
She feels incredible. Mark that date down.
One present from each person only.
Only.
I just get like thousands of presents from people.
I bought you one present.
And I was really delighted with it.
And you bought me... Yeah. Anyway, so... but I do think when you look at those gifts that you got at Christmas, and they're all just... Did you need them? No. Did you want them particularly? No. But you're paying for them now. You're paying for them, your credit cards. This is the thing,
exactly. Yeah, bankrupting people who can't afford.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Look, here's what else is making the news today with the time at 6 minutes past 8.
Labour is warning pensioners are facing a tough, bleak year and will have to choose between heating and eating. The Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, Jonathan Ashworth, says the government's planned increase to the state pension in April will be wiped out when set against rising living costs.
It means a pensioner is going to lose around £222 in real terms, or a couple is going to lose £355. So any help that they may have been getting on energy bills completely wiped out by these real terms cuts.
French President Emmanuel Macron is flying to Moscow to meet the Russian president in a bid to dial down tensions with Ukraine. Sources close to Macron said he aims to buy time and freeze the situation for several months, at least until the general election in France. That, although, wasn't him. That was the murderer of Millie Dowler, Levi Belfield, who's admitted to killing a mother and her 6-year-old daughter back in 1996.
This has all come to light after a lawyer representing Michael Stone, who is serving life for the murder of the pair, says he's received a letter from Belfield detailing his involvement.
Students will be able to get higher GCSE and A-level grades this year, with boundaries set to be lowered.
The Education Secretary, Nadeem Zahawi, says it will give students a fair chance following disruptions caused by the pandemic.
Thank you, everybody who has been in touch this morning saying how useful it was, Eamonn, how useful it was to learn from Isabel how to open your bottle of mouthwash first thing in the morning, which was very difficult. Just to recap on the situation, for 1 week, I have had my mouthwash. I haven't been able to.
Here's your test. Can you open it now? I've shown you the way.
Well, you said there were 2 bits on the side that I squeezed, right? They don't tell me there's 2 bits on the side, right? So I put my fingers on the side and I squeeze.
Keep squeezing. Oh, my goodness. Did it in one.
Yeah, do you want a drink?
No, thanks. I'm fine.
I think you should.
I saw.
Think you should.
You are so unbelievable.
No, just understand.
I just saw you wrap your mouth around it just as your friend.
I'm only saying as your friend. There's lots of people wouldn't tell you.
I think we're going to read what the lovely people of GB viewers and listeners have been saying rather than your thoughts. We've been talking about exams this morning. Janet Sadler says, as a retired teacher, I think open book assessments should be used. There's nowhere in the workplace where you'll be given a problem to solve without reference to media available.
Oh, look at this. David Windass. Absolutely. Hi, David. Good morning. We like you, David. Absolutely love the paper review on GB News this morning with Eamonn and Isabel. The news of the day with humour, passion, and no presenter or guest egos. I'm not sure about that. Plus practical demonstrations on how to open mouthwash. It's the way all news reviews should be. Thank you, David, very much indeed.
We've had an email in as well on Carrie Johnson. We've been talking about her, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again this hour. She says, I do believe this campaign is being used to insulate Boris Johnson from criticism and expulsion from office, but Carrie Johnson is not in her position because of some amazing talent. She's many contacts through her family. It's all too easy to forget the world of nepotism.
Matthew Swan tells me my segment on how to open a bottle of mouthwash should be up for a TV BAFTA. Can't say I disagree with that. When you look at some of the rubbish that goes in there, I mean, really, you know, same old all the time, same old
well, we'll
rubbish.
Definitely be putting a little reel in, I think, this year. Okay. Anyway. Yeah.
Today, a series of Royal gun salutes will mark the start of something that I'd love to be able to tell you. Yes, it's a year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70 years of service.
This comes after Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall say they're deeply conscious of the honour following the Queen's statement on her Platinum Jubilee for Queen to be known as Queen Consort when the Prince of Wales is crowned King.
Well, for more on this historic milestone, royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams joins us now. Richard, good morning to you. The Queen's done this well, hasn't she, this Queen's Consort granting?
She's done it extremely well because she's preparing the succession. I mean, this was dramatic. It wasn't expected. Nobody trailed it. The one thing that I think might have influenced it is an opinion poll in the Daily Telegraph recently, and it reads, "Public could be ready for Queen Camilla's popularity at a high." Now, that is not terribly popular, but what the poll shows is that there is appreciation over what the Camilla does, how she supports Charles, her work for charities, and we've got us. She's attached to some 90. So she's done a remarkable job, but the Queen is recognising not only that, but the fact that if this hadn't been done, there would have obviously have been questions when Charles acceded. If it had been announced then there would probably have been quite a lot of controversy before the coronation at some point. So it's been done superbly.
As my mother said yesterday, I think it's lovely. It's taken away any questions who's going to go against the will of Her Majesty when it comes to this. It sort of sorts the whole issue out. And I think what's very clever from Buckingham Palace is it also sets her Platinum Jubilee in a really positive light. There's been so much negative press around the royals with her son, Prince Andrew, which is an ongoing saga, of course, with Prince Harry. But this is a really positive story, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But then the entire message on Accession Day was tremendously positive. She was looking forward to a future where she thought that this country would thrive and survive. And she was also talking about the debt she owed to her father and to Prince Philip, as expected, and renewing her vows to serve. But the thrust of the message was very, very upbeat, and this was part of it. The fact that, in her opinion, and she's recently made Camilla a lady member of the Order of the Garter, the oldest order of chivalry. Before that, she became a Privy Councillor, and these were signs that Camilla has her confidence. The problem, of course, has been what happened in past decades, and this has been gone over so often and so frequently. We'll have next year, I'm afraid, the Crown revisit all of this yet again. But nonetheless, what's been done is tremendously significant. Princess Consort, which was the title that Camilla was supposed to be taking, hasn't got any historical precedent to it, and constitutionally it was always a nonsense.
We've mentioned the Queen, and we've mentioned how she's played this so impeccably. A word, maybe, Richard, about Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall herself, and how she has, well, I think she's turned so much around, and you know, her acceptability doesn't seem to be an issue anymore. So she's played a blinder as well, hasn't she?
Well, it has taken time. After Diana's tragic death in 1997, it took 8 years before Charles could marry his non-negotiable partner. And I mean, for all of that time since, she's never put a foot wrong. You're absolutely right. And certainly a large number of people have warmed to her. And those who still remain sceptical, and there will be quite a few, the facts are that she's not, as you say, made an error. Her public engagements are well carried out. Topics such as sexual assault and domestic abuse, or osteoporosis, or reading. I mean, she champions causes and does it extremely well. Those who meet her have very, very positive feedback. So overall, it's been very well handled, but it's taken time, and there will always be those who will find difficulty in accepting it because of Diana. But the gist of the Queen's message, of course, was looking forward. She's looking forward to celebrations for an absolutely unique occasion in our history. No other monarch, of course, has reached 70 years, and she has still 2 years to go before she beats Louis XIV, the Sun King, who apparently reigned for 72 years. Very soon she'll surpass King Bhumibol of Thailand. But I mean, there's practically nobody in this league, but it's the way the Queen's reigned, so dedicated to duty, handling it so well, and also being somewhat of an enigma. We don't know what she thinks on so many issues, which is, I think, all to the good.
Well, thank you for that analysis and that tribute. Richard Fitzwilliams, Royal Commentator, really appreciate your take. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
There you are. Just what I say all the time. Wait for the man to say goodbye.
Yeah, and they cut it off.
How many times in 5
It's a
minutes
different
did I say
director
that?
every hour, to be fair.
Just, well,
yeah.
maybe we'll just send a memo. It's just common courtesy that people say goodbye
Oh,
to
the
you.
bottle of Listerine and other products are available.
See,
Sorry.
I'm hiding the label and you're mentioning everything. I'm just talking about how important packaging is, right? How important it is. Because Fairy Liquid, I remember the days when Fairy Liquid used to be in a long white tube bottle, and on Blue Peter you used to
cut the lid off,
cut it up and make it into Thunderbird 2 or something like that or whatever as well. But Fairy Liquid, there's magic going to happen. There's a big transformation. So let's have a look at this. This is a story in the papers today. There you see what they've done is that your now bottle on the right, as you see, has become the bottle on the left there. So it's like, you know, like you get mayonnaise now and ketchup, which you just squeeze. They're permanently upside down.
That is good, I suppose. I mean, look, you know me, Eamonn, I don't like change. I really struggle with change. And I automatically look for the negative, and I'm automatically thinking, you know what, there's going to all be gunk in the lid, and it's going to be messy, it's going to come out too fast. That's what I think. Because it's not like you have problems getting Fairy Liquid out in its traditional format.
Yes, my point is, why need to do that? Because it just squirts.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to, when I was a kid, we used to steal my mum's Fairy Liquid and then pour water into it and then shake it up.
And fire at each other.
Yeah, but it would come out as bubbles.
Your poor mother.
Bubbles all the time.
That sounds fun. I decant my Fairy Liquid or whichever brand I use and put it into a pretty bottle by my sink because I don't like the colour of all the products in my neutral kitchen.
That's a bit over fussy, isn't it?
I just like a pretty washing up pot.
So you just don't have enough time in the day?
I have a very busy day, let me tell you, but I just find time for making things beautiful.
Oh.
I try.
Oh
no.
That's nice. So anyway, this change came after a poll of 2,000 adults revealed that they typically spend 20 minutes of every day washing an average of 20 items. That's 7,003 items a year.
That's too much of your life.
I would just say,
up.
have you never heard of a dishwasher?
Yeah,
Have you never
totally agree.
What, 20 items? Would you wash 20 items a day? I wouldn't.
Way. I put everything in, pans, the lot. My mum won't put any pans in. She won't put wine glasses in. Everything I put in the dishwasher. I actually get offended by seeing her washing up because I feel like, Mum, you're better than that. Don't waste your life.
I wash glasses separately. I would do that. That's my upbringing as a barman.
Smart ones.
Well, you don't want them with that white scummy...
No, but you have to use proper stuff in the dishwasher to stop that. There's all that technology now.
You can't put...
crystal or something in, though.
Or just ordinary glass in with a frying pan, can you?
No, that's a bad idea.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. I love how we get to the bottom of the really important issues.
Anyway,
It is important.
It is important. Lots more important things coming after this very short break. The time, 18 minutes past 8. Looking ahead to today's weather, and Britain is looking increasingly cloudy after a sunny and frosty start with some rain arriving. The details: the southwest of England will end the morning on a generally dry but cloudier note than you'll see first thing, and a slight breeze will also develop. Some cloud will also be edging in across the southeast, although here the sun will still be making an appearance at times.
Heading across to Wales, there'll be quite a thick blanket of cloud, giving the odd spot of drizzle over the hills. The Midlands will be mainly dry, although they'll have lost the early morning bright spells, being replaced by increasing amounts of miserable cloud and a bit of west to southwesterly breeze.
A little bit of patchy rain likely over the Pennines, but to the east of high ground, many parts of northeast England will be dry, albeit on the cloudy and rather breezy side.
For much of Scotland, the middle of the day will be unsettled with outbreaks of rain in places, quite strong winds. Edinburgh and some other eastern spots, though, should just about escape dry.
Northern Ireland,
Some rain likely to affect here, and it'll be light, it'll be patchy, it'll mainly fall over hills. It'll be mild with a keen wind blowing. The afternoon and evening will be mostly cloudy with patchy rain and strengthening winds. Gales and heavier rain will affect parts of the north, and that is how the weather is shaping up this Monday morning.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 8:22. We're talking about a multi-billion-pound plan to tackle the NHS backlog. It sounds good, but apparently it's being delayed by the Treasury because of an announcement that was due to be made today has been put on hold. Let's find out why. Tom Harwood joins us this morning from Downing Street, our political correspondent. You're college green. Tom, what are the reasons for this? Is this a rift between number 10 and number 11, or is it simply just that the NHS wasn't ready?
Well, it really depends who you ask when it comes to this. Of course, we are getting some sort of announcement today. It's a little bit confusing because we're hearing today My Planned Care, which is a service that people will be able to go and use online in order to find which areas have the lowest waiting lists to get the best chance of their operations. My Planned Care is being launched today, but the National Care Plan is being delayed. That was meant to all come out at the same time, but according to reports this morning, what has happened is that the Treasury has got involved, saying that this needs to be delayed. This hasn't been properly thought through. What the Treasury say also is that the NHS say that it's not quite ready yet, whereas number 10 wanted out today. What's the delay about? Well, to some extent, the Treasury want to make sure that money is being well spent. We know that the NHS has had huge amounts of money pumped into it over the last few years. Compared to where it was in 2009, 2010, it's had 40% funding increase. It's really quite extraordinary numbers of tens of billions of pounds that have gone into this organisation. So to some extent you can understand the Treasury argument that this needs to be money well spent, that there needs to be really clear accountability structures here. But on the other hand, it does seem like this is something that number 10 was really wanting to get out now, to have a policy-focused week, particularly with regards to focusing on healthcare and that NHS backlog, and it does look like the Treasury has been meddling.
Yeah, what then, from a political gossip point of view, does this mean in terms of the whole subplot
Rishi Sunak's department against the Prime Minister Boris Johnson on all of this. And it gives credence to the fact that there may be friction between the two.
I think it's certainly undoubtable that there is some friction between number 10 and number 11. To some extent, 'twas ever thus. We saw friction between Theresa May and Philip Hammond. We saw friction between Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. We have seen friction between Prime Ministers and Chancellors for quite some time. However, given the situation, the political situation that the Prime Minister is in, and the almost sort of appointed heir that Rishi Sunak seems to be in the eyes of many, it does seem to be that there is a bit of a political back and forth here, a bit of a briefing war sometimes between number 10 and number 11. I think it would be a little bit naive to dismiss that as something that's been playing into this story as it rolls out today.
OK, and just talking about stories and playing into it and briefings and all the rest of it, I've got to ask you about what the Prime Minister's wife has described as a brutal campaign against her, people dubbing her Princess Nutnuts or Carrie Antoinette, and this biography of her being serialised in the Daily Mail by Lord Ashcroft.
Yes, it's a pretty explosive biography. It's one that makes a number of claims about how intimately involved Carrie Johnson is in the running of number 10, that she gets involved in policy decisions and is all round much more of a political animal than previous prime ministerial spouses. Of course, it's understandable that she might be, given her previous roles working in Conservative campaign headquarters, working as a special advisor and working for various Conservative MPs in her career before becoming the wife of Boris Johnson. So it is to some extent understandable that she would be politically involved, although interestingly, in response to the serialisation in the Mail, in response to the this upcoming book, people around Carrie Johnson have been denying she's involved at all in political decisions, which does seem to really stretch the understanding of what most people would have, given that we know that many of her close associates have entered number 10.
OK, from a stretch, Tom Harwood, down there in College Green in Westminster. Thank you very much indeed. 27 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock. We'll take a break. Coming up, we take a look at what is making the headlines inside and outside the newspapers with guests Chandra Walker and Polly Mackenzie. Don't go away.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
He doesn't know. I think did I ask for the newspapers? No, didn't ask for the newspapers. No, thank you. I'm just sitting here. Sorry, people are it's gone viral.
Yeah, it's gone viral.
Your lesson on how to open the mouthwash. And Isabel, I have to say, I am amazed, absolutely amazed, because as I say, my hand is raw all week, going round and round. But there's nothing here that tells me to do what you did. How did you actually know that? Do you study these things?
No, I actually confess I don't know. Perhaps I used some logic. I'm not sure, problem solving, but I worked it out. But he just watched the clip back. We've just put it out on GBNews on our Twitter, and he was saying to me, "That is amazing." And he even wrote me a note. He even wrote me a note going, "You are very good."
I didn't say it what though.
But do you know there was a defence offered for Eamonn by the security guard at GBNews who said bottles like that you used to have to push down.
That's right.
Right, and there is no instruction to say you no longer push these tops down.
There's no instruction for anything. It's just for people who have supernatural powers and ability to know exactly what to... And it's so simple. And I've been practising ever since. You just...
Anytime you have any practical
wait a minute,
problems...
it's stuck again.
Oh, no, you've worked it out. You know.
I'm swearing
Squeeze
to God.
the special patches.
Oh, yeah,
there you
right,
go.
Yeah. There's a little crack. You know, like the crack you get in your knee when you walk along and you get a crack on your knee?
I don't know.
And you sort of wish it to go away. It makes a little crack like that.
Oh.
Anyway,
to look forward
let's
to.
now see those newspapers that we didn't want 3 minutes ago. Have we got those newspapers there? Beginning? No, the director's now throwing them in the bin.
That's OK. We're going to go straight into the Metro page 2. Andre, you've chosen this story about energy bills in France. Really interesting that you've chosen this because, of course, we are seeing global inflation. We're seeing countries all over the world with this cost of living crisis that we're also struggling with here. The French are dealing with it slightly differently from us.
Yeah, it's funny because, of course, people will be quite interested in this, not just because France is one of our nearest neighbours. Of course, the Irish Republic is our nearest one. But it's the fact that EDF Energy owns so many different owns businesses in both countries. Obviously, they're the national supplier in France. And effectively, what they're saying is that France is doing better than the United Kingdom as a result of a package of measures. And really, we are having this cost of living crisis in Britain. And why is it that the French are able to get things right?
Well, let's put that question to Polly. Is it something to do with the fact that they're bailing out their energy companies for huge amounts?
Basically, yes. But it means we, of course, are putting money into a different thing of kind of a council tax rebate and a loan thing that doesn't really make any sense. So both countries are putting billions of pounds in, basically, to try and deal with this huge crisis, which is obviously going to be a huge affordability problem for so many people. The question is which mechanism is more effective. At the moment, actually, because lots of us have EDF Energy as our supplier, we're effectively helping to subsidise French energy bills, which is one of those great Brexit freedoms that we have secured for ourselves. But the other thing that the French have done much better than us is investing in renewables and investing in insulating homes. You have to always remember that our energy prices are relatively comparable with other countries.
Those aren't immediate fixes.
No, they're not.
Do you know you just said there you've got to work out which strategy is the most effective. Isn't the most effective strategy the one that people actually believe is effective? Do you know that? So when they pay their utility bill, they don't feel it's breaking the bank for them.
Completely. Personally, for me, right, like we have a system to get money to people who are struggling financially, and it's the welfare system. Mm-hmm. We have universal credit for people of working age, pension credit for people in retirement, and it's built into people's incomes. It's very easy to give money through that system to the people who are struggling most. Instead, just to avoid putting money into the welfare system, because Rishi Sunak is, I think, concerned that will sort of stick and be permanent. There was a huge campaign, wasn't there, after they put £20 into universal credit to keep it. Just to avoid that, he's coming up with these really complicated mechanisms that are going to leave lots and lots of people really struggling.
There is a huge advantage that EDF have in France over what EDF have in the United Kingdom, and that is nuclear power. Now, the critical thing about nuclear power, as probably you all know, It costs virtually nothing to run a nuclear power station. It costs a fortune to build it. So that's why we quite often haven't done them in the United Kingdom. But the huge advantage of nuclear power, even though it's sometimes considered comparatively expensive, the price never changes. And so what you can do in France with 70% nuclear power is you can tell people what their bill will be in 30 years.
Because nothing fluctuates.
Nothing fluctuates. Because I mean, you could have enough fuel for all Britain's nuclear power stations in this room. Enough fuel for it. So it's...
But you know, maybe you're not old enough, but I mean, the reason we don't have power stations in this country, nuclear, is because we were all scared witless that it was the worst form of energy, the most dangerous, the most unstable form of energy. Chernobyl happened. There was Green and Common protesters about other nuclear weapons.
Seascale.
Whatever. Seascale. There was so much. 3 Mile Island in America.
I disagree with that, Eamon. I don't think that's the reason why we've not got as much nuclear energy.
I honestly thought it was the worst form of energy.
Well, it's not clean. I mean, Caroline Lucas, former leader of the Green Party, is opposed to it.
How is it clean when you've got to eventually get rid of the waste?
So when you say clean, what I mean is it's virtually carbon-free. So
that's different.
So then dump the rest of it in the Irish Sea and then people in Ireland get cancer.
No, the real problem with nuclear power and the reason why we haven't got a good energy mix and we're too reliant on gas is actually, and I say this as a Conservative, it's related to privatisation. Because what happens is, because you have to borrow as a private company the cost of building the power station, a gas power station doesn't cost much to build, but it costs a fortune to run. And so that's much easier to privately finance than the other way round, which is, of course, the other problem with nuclear energy is you can't turn it off. And so there's a big issue with energy storage as well.
See, I hear everything Polly's saying about renewables and whatever, but it's like, we want it now. We want these things now.
Absolutely. There's got to be a kind of immediate solution, which is simply getting cash into people's pockets. But it's just really depressing that because we've screwed up our policy for such a long time, that basically we're giving money to people to literally burn, to make the heat go straight out of their roofs.
Yeah.
If we can change that, means that we'll be more resilient in the face of future crises in 5 or 10 years. If we just think about the immediate, we're making ourselves really vulnerable, actually, and there's no reason to believe that this price shock. Why is this price shock going to be the only price shock?
I went to a lunch with some of my dad's old mates from the construction industry, and what they were saying was the key thing to do now is make major tax breaks on grey water systems, on solar panels, on wind turbines at home or whatever.
What's a grey water system?
It's where your bath becomes your toilet water.
Oh.
So you just, I mean, I don't know if it bubbles up, but depends how much of that mouthwash you stick in.
Oh, gosh.
But of course,
genius.
The reason for that is not to encourage middle-class people to get it. It's basically because then somebody will make 1 million panels a year and they'll be relatively cheap. Because at the moment, as you know, installing something like a solar panel system is going to be like $8,000, and who's got $8,000 knocking about?
Yeah, I think sort of, listening to what Polly's saying there, it hasn't been joined up. There's no commitment to it. We need to just go for something wholeheartedly. And there's just bits of this, grants for that. We do a bit of this, we do a bit of that. You could look at nationalisation. Maybe that's what we should be looking at.
Well, don't look at me.
You don't want to nationalise people's homes, though. That would be a bad idea. Just to make them be insulated. I think, but it has to be a kind of a national programme, street by street.
But I'm afraid, Eamon...
Street by street, yeah. Then you can see something being done. You actually see something being achieved.
Yeah, and actually, if neighbours get together to collaborate, you can actually do it more efficiently as well. Because instead of
as if that's going to happen, people hate their neighbours. Think of London. I mean, I don't hate my neighbours. I don't hate my neighbours.
I love my neighbours.
I love my neighbours too. But I mean, there's whole series, aren't there?
In the Morecambe area, there's a group of people who got together and built their own water turbine. And there are small schemes like that, so people do it.
Now, Andre, controversial story here in the Mail. 92-year-old general may face police questioning over 1971 killings, Belfast killings in Ballymurphy, West Belfast. Please don't tell me you're going to object to this.
Well, I'm going to say this. I am going to slightly object. Let me explain. I've got friends of mine in the Parachute Regiment, and nobody believes that in the 1970s in Belfast things went well, and clearly there were problems and there were atrocities committed. My issue is this. Under the Good Friday Agreement, when somebody is convicted of a terrorist offence, they are released under licence, assuming various criteria, such as their organisation remaining peaceful. Why on earth are we hunting down one group of people when we're not really hunting down other groups of people? I don't see the value in attempting to lock up a 90-year-old guy when, in fact, you're releasing people from the UVF and the IRA who actually, I think, were significantly worse. Now, what I'm not saying is that somebody in the Parachute Regiment had the right to gun down a civilian, but I'm saying that, actually, this is unhelpful.
I really don't know what to say. You say we're bound by the Good Friday Agreement there. I look at this and I think it's like letting, people who committed atrocities during the Second World War or whatever off. I mean, if you read in depth what happened in Ballymurphy over that weekend, a priest being shot, a woman being shot, a father going out to get a bottle of milk being shot through the head, just like his shooting practice.
And I say that, but at the same time, we released Johnny Adair under the Good Friday Agreement. We released Michael Stone under the Good Friday Agreement. But what could be worse than going to a funeral and starting to shoot people and throw hand grenades at them? The reality is, I'm not saying, and by the way, my friends in the Parachute Regiment admit that they would walk down the Falls Road thumping Catholics for no reason, right? They admit that. So nobody's disputing that things were horrendous. But at the same time, if you're going to do it for the IRA, you've got to do it for the Parachute Regiment as well.
Okay.
Let's turn our attention to the Mirror front page. This is really interesting, Polly. This is about a campaign to try and encourage people to volunteer to donate blood. They're struggling to combat 75,000 donor shortage. What's this all attributed to?
Well, there's a shortage, again, because of the demands in the health service, the pandemic, people, not wanting to come forward and give blood. We just need to kind of get back to the old ways of doing things, actually. And it's so easy to give blood, and it's also really easy to fall out of the habit of it. I used to give blood regularly before I had kids. Then when you're pregnant, you can't. And I saw this front page and I felt really guilty, actually, because I've never got back on the horse, as it were. And this is such a simple way to save lives. Our NHS needs us. We have a country where you can't be paid to give up blood. There are other, you often see in American medical dramas that people will be kind of paid. I love the fact that in our NHS, this is a completely voluntary thing. You have to do it out of compassion and generosity for people you will never meet. And I think that absolutely I'm going to sign up as soon as we're off air.
Oh, you're inspiring.
I encourage everyone else to do so.
Yeah, because you know what? It could be your loved one or indeed yourself that will need that blood. And as you say, such a worthwhile thing to do.
And you hit upon something else there, which was, you have to volunteer to do this. Throughout this whole energy crisis, food crisis, the poverty that people are going through, we rely increasingly on volunteers to man food kitchens and food banks and goodness knows what. And I mean, if you're a volunteer out there, whatever you're doing, if you're a carer, whatever you are, respect to you.
Well, I'm here today. Now, that might not be a good thing, because when I was, I think, about 10 days old, somebody got on a bike from London and took some blood to the northwest of England because I was dying. And funnily enough, my brother had two.
Why such a distance? What?
There wasn't any of your type or something.
I don't know. I mean, look,
there's no green blood anywhere.
Eamonn, much as I was around at the time, I can't remember the specifics.
They needed some Vulcan blood or something somewhere.
But of course, when you talk about paying for blood, at that time, when I had my blood transfusion in '79, my little brother had two in '83. In America, because they were paying for blood, people, intravenous drug users and others, and there was a huge HIV outbreak. Yeah. So, of course, there were a lot of haemophiliac children who had blood transfusions at the same age as us, who died of AIDS as quite young children.
It is actually quite difficult to get through all the hoops now to give blood, because I have previously gone, and for some reason I've had vaccines for going to places in Africa, which meant that I was then bound for not being able to give blood for a long, long time. So they do lots of screening now to make sure.
They have changed the rules around men who have sex with other men. To improve those. They used to be basically kind of block exclusion, and it's now much, much better. So people who may have been turned away before, it's always...
Although I've got to be honest with you, and I know this is going to sound brutal, I would err on the side of saying no to donations rather than saying yes. And I know it sounds difficult. Well, simply because when you're talking about going to high-risk countries and whatever, having had some of this stuff in my system and seen people dying of HIV and AIDS, I'm quite keen for us to be quite fastidious on the checking.
Finally, I've started a whole big thing here. Bottles and squeezing bottles is the in thing. What do you both think? I mean, Isabel and I both think there was nothing wrong really with Fairy Liquid. It wasn't sort of glutinous, gelatinous, really. It wouldn't stick round the nozzle. But they've turned it on its head, basically.
Literally.
Yeah? I hate to say this to everyone. I don't want to blow away the myth for the viewers, but having worked with some of these companies, this is because you will use more of it when it's upside down. When you just tip it out like that, it's a bit different than squeezing it. I think it's relatively cynical. Oh, by the way, when you say you use more, it's only like 1 or 2%. But of course, if you sell 1 billion bottles a year, then that suddenly... I'll tell you the big problem with things like Fairy Liquid. And, you look at a company like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, the biggest thing they ship around the world is water. Because, of course, this stuff's got a large water content in it. And so it's a huge environmental damage. If they could move to much more concentrated stuff, it'd be better.
Yeah, it'd be great to see a tablet-based washing up liquid. Obviously wouldn't be liquid anymore. But I'm just as cynical.
No, it wouldn't. How would you do? Because I'd do the odd glass, and I'd be like trying to break up a tablet.
Well, I don't know, but they now have amazing things,
soap.
like really concentrated things that you can put to reuse your kind of spray bottles that are really useful. And again, to stop
You
that
might put it in your
shipping
basin,
water
get the
around.
suds up. Put it in your basin.
I haven't got time for all that. Just
And
do a
then-
quick rinse.
And then away.
I'm sure someone can invent one. Again, it's all of this single-use plastic, absolutely, among the kind of the.
My worry is that I may end up putting that in the fridge with the mayonnaise. Like mistaking it.
It's bright green, Eamonn. If you eat anything of that colour, unless it's raw
I
fruit
have done in the bathroom. I have sprayed shaving foam under my arms.
To be honest, after this incident this morning, I'm not surprised.
Do you know my mum bought us a load of ice creams in the 1980s and put ketchup on top? Because she thought it was...
By mistake.
Yeah, by mistake. And she said I couldn't afford, so I just had to lick it off.
Oh, my word. As the advert used to say, for hands that do dishes that are as soft as your face, it's mild green, fairy liquid. Do you not know?
I do remember. No, I do
remember the wild green
Everybody
hairy
knew the words. They were just leaving you to it.
Thank you very much indeed, Andrew Walker, Polly
thanks,
Mackenzie.
guys.
Those are your
Thank
newspapers on this Wednesday. And thank you for your company all morning.
Yeah,
thank you very much
you.
indeed.
Now, we're talking about the daily grind of modern life next. It can, of course, have a really negative impact on our mental health as we find ourselves stuck in a technological rut.
Now, sometimes the best solution is a simple one. Disconnect from social media, reach out to people who really matter. Even little gestures like sending a card, sort of dying art, isn't it?
Really is.
Or visiting someone for a proper sit-down cup of tea, all that sort of thing can make an enormous difference.
Well, joining us to discuss more helpful tips is our self-help guru, Janie Holiday, joins us every Monday morning for this segment, if you want to look out for it. You are talking this week about expecting a handwritten letter in the post and how that can really help us to turn away...
Even a card. Just a card. Sometimes I say, is there anything from Isabel in the post today? No.
Valentine's Day is just round the corner.
It's not.
But, Janie, talking about this, my littlest, she's at nursery, and on Friday they did a school trip to the letterbox, and she had to decorate a card, and then they had to learn about what addresses meant, and then she put it through the letterbox. It was so sweet. They walked holding hands down through the little village area where we live. And... Anyway, I'm waiting every day excitedly for this little letter to come in the post. So it really is magical to receive a handwritten letter with love.
Yes, it is. Good morning. It's actually National Send a Card to Your Friend Day today. And I think we really do forget the positive impacts, just as you've been describing, Isabel. It's what I call these modern day habits that we've got caught into. It's the normalization of the accumulation of little things that build up over time, which means that we have an entirely different way of existing, habits, behaviors, boundaries, like we talked about last week. And there really is such a positive impact with something like sending a card, dare I say it, all those lovely things that we did, the old-fashioned way, so to speak. When you write someone a card or a letter, you're really actually indirectly telling them that you've thought about them, that you've taken your time. We've become such lazy communicators, haven't we, recently, with WhatsApp, emails, Facebook Messenger, etc. And really, you're giving someone the gift, not just of a card, but of your time and of your focus as well. And you just talked on the previous segment about contribution with blood donation. And I think for sending a card to somebody else is such a beautiful contribution to another human being. It doesn't just make them feel great, it makes you feel good too. And that creates a wonderful positive ripple effect. So anyone that is watching or listening all over the world today, put pen to paper today, and let's all think about what a beautiful impact that will have on so many other people.
When you start selecting cards, when you go to a card shop, Janie, and you actually see how funny or appropriate cards are, someone in my circle has died recently, and it's very difficult to find something that's not overly morbid or, I don't know how you would describe it, just sort of quite Puritan, And it is, if I have a regret in life, it's I look back and I put too many important messages via text, and they've gone. We just get into that habit.
Yeah, it's so nice actually making me really think about this. You know, I've talked a lot about how much I adored my grandparents, and I really want my children to have that relationship with my parents. And, you know, I need to try and nurture that a little bit and try and encourage them perhaps to send letters
But to have a memory of it, you know, a box, a letter box, a note box, as Janie said, go out there today, pen that little note. It's not many words, but it'll mean a lot.
And actually, it's actually a good time of year for that, because Valentine's Day just around the corner, and it can be a good way to start a love conversation.
Oh, I dread
as well.
Valentine's Day, Janie. I just those cards, they keep coming and coming and coming. It's embarrassing. But anyway, what have you got to say about spreading the love?
Well, you guys make me laugh. I think it's just, you know, we've actually become, a couple of key things really. We've become terrible communicators. We have lost the ability actually to really put pen to paper in many ways because of the way that we are, like you say, on those texts. There's a beautiful book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. And she talks about how, I've mentioned this before on the show, about the common themes of regret that people have. And I actually think the generation that she was covering was, I wish I'd had the courage to lead a life that I really wanted for myself. I actually think with our generation, just as you've touched on, we're going to look back and go, I wish I hadn't spent so much time on my phone. I wish I had created more of those kind of long-term memories. But the great thing is, this is not the end of our story. So I think, you know, with a day like today, send your friend Send a Letter to a Friend Day. It's about encouraging yourself to put in new positive habits and behaviours into your world, into your family, into your relationships that will have such a long legacy. So if you want to receive more letters, then send more letters. If you want to create memory boxes, do those kinds of things. One of the reasons people spend much more time on technology is they don't know what to do off it, because we've become so accustomed to it. So I'm a big fan of non-negotiables. I've been talking about this on my Instagram all week. So for anyone listening or watching, just think about positive habits that you can put into your life, your day, whether it be once a week as a family you sit and play board games, whether it's once a week you write somebody a letter, whether it's every evening at 8 o'clock, phones go away and you play cards. All of those things have such a brilliant impact on our mental health as well. So, you know, all of these little things really, really do add up.
Well, Janie, thank you for reiterating the message. Send that card today. It is National Send a Card to a Friend Day. Maybe send it to somebody who's not a friend, somebody who used to be a friend.
Yeah, patch up. Yeah. That's such an important thing to do. I'm sure that's something people regret on their deathbeds. And Janie, as it says on the bottom of the screen there, beat the Monday blues with these simple tips. And you really do. You help us start our week on a good note. And I think what with the blood donations idea and sending a letter to a friend, lots of inspiration for us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now it's time for On Your Doorstep. So On Your Doorstep today is in the West Midlands. It's at the heart of the West Midlands. It's in Dudley. And let's now go to our reporter there, our West Midlands reporter, Balvinder Sidhu, live there for us this morning. And you've introduced us to some lovely people today, Balvinder.
Good morning. Yes, now I have come to the town centre. I'm on the high street and behind me is a fountain which has been here since the 19th century. But people here do feel like the town centre has declined over the years. They feel the area is being neglected. I mean, New Look, which is just behind me, closed on the weekend. And people here have been telling me that, you know, there aren't any shops left for ladies to buy clothes from. So that's really interesting. So I've come to the market. Dudley is an old market town. It's had markets going here since the 12th century. And behind me is next to me, in fact, sweets and plants being sold. And I'm going to speak to, I'm going to try and see if Chris is free here. Good morning. You're live on Breakfast with Isabel and Eamonn. What's your name?
Chris.
Chris, nice to meet you, Chris. Chris, can you just tell me how long have you been a trader here in Dudley?
My partner started up the trading business 12 months ago, to be fair. So we're only small traders that are trying to learn the ropes, I think.
And what do you sell?
We sell mostly flowers, fresh cut flowers, indoor plants, outdoor plants, from primroses to guzmanias to aloe vera.
What made you decide to sell plants and sweets as well, isn't it?
We think that the sweets were kind of a a kind of thing that everybody quite enjoys from there, you know, because we do all traditional sweets as well as up-to-date market sweets. And then we thought, well, if people come to buy traditional sweets for presents and whatever, why don't we just do some flowers as well on the side? So try and kill a bird with two stones or whatever.
So have you lived in Dudley for a long time? Have you seen much change on the high street?
Yeah, I've been into Dudley since I was a child. I brought up about 1.75 miles away from here, to be honest with you. Yeah, I've seen a lot of changes in Dudley. Especially with the high street and whatever, but I think that's due to, you know, the rising of online shopping as well, as much as COVID has taken its toll, you know, with the town. But there's a lot of shops still open, to be fair, and there's a lot of people still trading on the market to try and keep, you know, to keep the town thriving and going as much as it can, really.
I mean, do you think it's like declined? Because lots of people are saying this town could do with a bit of a boost, needs regenerating.
Yes, it does need regenerating. That's down to Dudley Council, you know, to come, I think personally myself, to come out, get on the front line a bit, and let's, you know, come and have a good look at the place and say, yeah, we need to invest a little bit more money, you know, into the marketplace and into the shops, the surrounding businesses as well.
So the other big topic of the day is cost of living. Food prices are potentially going to go up in the spring. Energy bills are going to go up as well. What impact is that going to have on you?
It's going to have a massive impact, and not just me, really, to be fair. It's the whole of the country, isn't it? People who live on the breadline, it's going to massively affect those. People who probably can afford it but think to themselves, well, hang on a minute, if a bill on average rises to £1,000 a year, you know, more in costs, how am I going to find that money?
What sacrifices might you have to make then to make ends meet?
Possibly look after it a little bit better by turning more electric off, not using it so much, trying to keep it down to a bare minimum, looking at alternative fuels, I suppose, where that if I can find cheaper costs, I think that's the only way that I'm going to be able to look at it, really.
The other question of the day is, the Queen. She's been celebrating 70 years,
yes.
Her Platinum Jubilee yesterday. What do you think about the Queen and the monarchy in general?
Oh, the Queen. What a fantastic person, to be honest and truthfully with you. That's nothing more than what she deserves. What she's done for this country is phenomenal. I think a lot of people don't see what she does behind the scenes. She does a hell of a lot. She's brought kind of stability for us to be very proud. There's not another country in the world that's had a monarch that's been on here for 70 years, and we should all be proud of that, to be fair. Yes, I believe in that. Definitely for monarchy, for me, to be fair.
You want it to continue?
Yes, definitely. I think that with Charles may not have as much of a reign as as his mother, but I think he possibly could do a good job. But I'm looking forward to see his son William take over, and I think that then the monarchy will be really strong again, to be fair.
All right, thank you so much, Chris. I'll let you carry on with trading. As you just heard from Chris, there's a lot of people in Dudley so far that we've spoken to who are huge fans of the monarchy. And we will be back with you again within the next half an hour with one more person from Dudley.
Well, I hope there's going to be more people at the market, Balvinder. It's very quiet there at the moment. We were just saying about Chris. I mean, you've got all those plants to sell and, you know, nobody turns up. He's landed with all that, isn't he?
Mm. Yeah, it's a tough job and out in the cold as well.
Yeah. So thanks, Bal. We'll see you in 20 minutes. Get your skates on.
See you soon.
Cheers. Bye. Coming up next, we're going to be speaking to Andrew Pearce, the Daily Mail's consultant editor, about the fallout and the gossip over Lord Ashcroft's new book, The Things He Says About Carrie Johnson, after this.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Boris Johnson's wife, Carrie, says she's the target of a brutal briefing campaign by the PM's enemies.
Good morning, 9 o'clock. 1 minute past, actually, if I'm telling the truth. Monday, February the 7th. This is Breakfast in GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. Welcome.
Leading the news this morning, a book serialised in the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday this weekend alleges Carrie Johnson has influence on the Prime Minister's decision-making. We'll be talking to Andrew Pearce from the Mail about those allegations.
That's up next. Meanwhile, a plan to tackle the NHS backlog in England has been put on hold after the Treasury seems to have blocked it.
A series of royal gun salutes will mark the start of a year of celebrations in honour of the Queen's 70 years of service to the nation.
So much of the weekend newspapers consumed with Conservative Party problems. The party continues to lurch from crisis to crisis this week. Several damaging stories attacking the Johnson premiership have been released.
Yes, tensions are high between Boris and the potential leadership hopeful Rishi Sunak, if the papers are to be believed, as the Chancellor put Boris's multi-billion-pound plan to solve the NHS backlog on hold.
Well, joining us now to discuss this and more, Andrew Pearce, consulting editor of the Daily Mail. We're going to start, first of all, I think, with the Carrie stuff.
Yes, let's start with Carrie.
Isabel's not comfortable with this.
No, look, my questions around the way we're portraying this is, do we have a problem with the Prime Minister's wife who has an opinion? If we do, then fine. But if we don't have a problem with that, then, you know...
Look, I don't have a problem with the Prime Minister's wife having an opinion, but I do have a problem with the Prime Minister's wife if she is, as the Lord Ashcroft's book suggests, First Lady, picks up his phone and sends messages so people think they are being sent by the Prime Minister. That's rather extraordinary. It is also extraordinary, if it's true, she engineered the dismissal of a woman member of staff who she found she was rather resentful of how attractive she was. We know that there have been people working in Number 10 who are very close to Carrie. She's got the nickname of Carrie Antoinette. We know why that. The redecoration of the Downing Street flat. You telling me the Prime Minister had the slightest bit of interest in wallpaper that costs £880 a roll? No, he left it to his wife. He wouldn't be the first husband to leave it to his wife. I'm treading into sexist territory here, but he has got a lot on his plate. He took no notice of it, and she got him into an awful row because it spent so much money, the redecoration. £100,000? Not that big, the flat. And they don't even own it.
No, the problem is, look, all the allegations swell, but if you look at the barefaced facts, I don't know the truth about whether she's sent text messages purporting to be the Prime Minister, but what is clear is that her fingerprints are on quite a lot of the Partygate stuff with her friends Henry Newman and the likes, with ABBA playing in the number 10 flat. Her fingerprints are also on Wallpapergate, because as you say, we don't think the Prime Minister chose the £800 wallpaper, and her fingerprints are all over the pen farthing evacuation of animals from Afghanistan. So those are the facts that I can see.
A lot of green issues, apparently.
I don't have a problem with that.
I do. Well, I do, because I think we're going mad for this rush to net zero, and she's a lot to do with that, because people who are struggling with their electric and gas bills this year, that's before the cap's lifted and their bills go up £700. When they look at their bills, they'll see 25% of it is green taxes. And I think we should be suspending them, but Carrie is very part of that woke agenda. Green comes first. No, letting hard-up families pay their bills should come first.
The thing is, Boris's green agenda existed long before Carrie Johnson. He was on his bike, swanning about Boris bikes, of course, part of his big London mayoral legacy. And perhaps some of the reasons that he's with her is because he was attracted to the fact that they ideologically met in the middle.
Yeah, I've not heard that was what attracted him to Carrie Johnson, who's 25 years younger than him. I've not heard that one, Isabel, but maybe that was what it was. They bonded over green issues. Look, she's a lot younger than him. And I suspect that's part of the issue to do with the parties. Look, he's 57, 58, but he's got two young children up in that Downing Street flat. When the day's over, he probably just wants to go to bed and get some sleep, because it's a full-on job. As you say, the parties have revolved around her. The one when he came back from work, there was a birthday cake for him. He's in trouble over that. It was her cake. The ABBA thing, what was the music? It's my favourite band, as you know, ABBA. Winner Takes It All. This is on the day when Dominic Cummings has been booted out after losing a power struggle with Carrie. That's now being investigated by the police. We've seen Dominic Cummings' true colours in the recent weeks, haven't we? I mean, you could understand why somebody like that wouldn't be very nice. He can't conceal his contempt for her because she got rid of him. He thought he should be...
So you don't think there's any sexism at play? I mean, I really do feel she's sort of my sort of age, and I do feel like we wouldn't be going after a man in the same way.
See, there you come up with that rubbish again. Of course they would be going after a man if the Prime Minister was a woman. So I just don't get this. Any criticism of Meghan Markle is racist. Any criticism of Carrie is sexist. It's anti-thick blonde hair or anything. You know, you can just... Why do you make up the argument just to suit your agenda?
Just the term marry Carrie Antoinette is a sexist thing to say.
It's quite funny.
It is funny, but it's picking on the fact that she's
Do you remember
female.
the things they said about Cherie Blair? Remember the things they said about Cherie Blair? And she was very engaged too. She ran a whole operation from Number 10, and she had a personal trainer, and it was constant stories. Nobody said then it was sexist. I think it's because Carrie's younger than him, very attractive, and some people are trying to imply she's a blonde bimbo. She isn't. She's very clever in her own right.
Younger than him and very attractive, Rishi Sunak. Right?
Yes.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Number 11. Yeah. You see, I love what goes on here. Either Rishi goes to the NHS and says, guys, you ready for this? They say no. He says, OK, guys, I'll do you a favour. We'll hold off this new restructuring for a while till everything's in order. Or he's basically saying to Boris, you want to look good today, you want to come into the House of Commons, you want to make big announcements about the NHS. Well, it's not happening.
I actually think it's the former. I think he wants to ensure that the money's spent properly, because there's been huge sums of money gone into the NHS before. It's unreformed, it's unregulated. Some of it gets wasted on salaries. He wants to be absolutely sure that's going to go.
And it would be typical Boris Johnson behaviour to say, let's just have a policy, let's have a big headline, let's have a slogan.
Spray the money everywhere.
Today.
Rishi, with his laser-like focus here, wants to make sure that money's spent properly. That money will be spent and it will be agreed, but they've got to make sure it's spent properly. And that's in all of our interests, because this money is to cut waiting lists, which are already at 6 million.
I don't know how we've any money left for anything.
We haven't. We're in so much debt, it's eye-watering. And every time interest rates go up, then we have to pay more interest on the debt.
Yeah.
It really is eye-watering. Your grandchildren will be paying for this.
I think it's so depressing.
I agree with you.
Everything is just so
bleak. Except for the Queen, who brings us great cheer, doesn't she? Great cheer. And Queen Camilla.
I know, yes.
Great talking point there.
We're big fans of Camilla.
I am too.
Yes.
Yeah. I was talking about this on LBC yesterday, and people were saying, "Oh, I was such a Diana devotee."
What is that?
But it was a long time
LBC
ago.
thing of which
radio station.
Right.
And people, the only people who seem to be opposed to it being Queen Camilla are people who want the monarchy to end when the Queen departs. There's very little antipathy towards her now.
Which is amazing.
Quite, when you consider where she was 25 years ago. Diana died this year.
You see, again, you bring this up and the sexist, racist comments against Meghan Markle.
I didn't bring that up.
No one sits and says it's sexist, racist against Camilla and everything that she went through. So you just brand her. Oh, she can take it.
Well, that was a girl-on-girl fight, wasn't it? That was a clash between Diana and.
She had the whole of
bent everything to your own agenda.
Oh, please!
Just amazing.
No, don't put me in the same bracket as being claiming the stuff against Meghan Markle as racist. I've never said that.
Carrie Antoinette, what could I call you?
Oh, here we go.
That could be quite good. I'm going to think.
You've got the perfect man for the job.
But I'm looking. You know, you cannot say Camilla did not take flack for whatever reason.
A lot of flack.
And you just got to say
she was the most hated woman in Britain. No doubt about it. Around the world, actually, she was seen as an adulteress who'd broken up the fairy tale marriage. And Diana was incredibly. I was a great fan of Diana, but she was incredibly good at manipulating opinion and the media, dare I say. She's very attractive, very charming. Am I being sexist?
No, I mean, all of that is true. But I wonder what it is specifically that has changed the narrative. Is it just the passing of time? Is it the acceptance of Harry and William?
I think it's consistency.
Or is it just her service?
She hasn't put a foot wrong. She's done her job. She's not tried to upstage him. She's almost one step behind. And I think people realise she makes him happy. And we want a happy king. You want the king to be happy on the throne, and it's with his consort, and that's quite right. And, you know, when they were first engaged in 2005, we were told by the palace it's intended she'll be known as Princess Consort. We knew then it was a get-out clause because it is intended can be unintended, and it has. And I think the fact the Queen has endorsed it in public will make it much easier for the country to accept it.
Yeah. Well, let's hear views now, because there is going to be a series of royal gun salutes today, which will mark the start of the whole celebrations for the Queen's 70 years. We're going to go to royal author, royal commentator now to discuss things. Ingrid Seward there, who's editor-in-chief of Majesty magazine, and she's a royal biographer. Ingrid, good morning to you. You heard what Andrew was saying there about Camilla, and Isabel was asking what was the turning point? What has she done to be so accepted now? What do you think?
Well, I know that it was very gradual. What she didn't do, or what her advisors didn't do, they weren't going to push her up there and say, this is Prince Charles's wife and we have to accept her. And they were very gradual. She didn't do a lot of royal engagements to start with. Very, very few. She was just in the background. I suppose, a bit like Prince Philip, she was 2 steps behind, or maybe even 5 steps behind. And it was very, very slow. And the Queen always says, timing is everything. And I think it was in this case. They felt that Camilla just had to be very gently introduced to the British public. And as you were just saying, Eamonn, there were a very, very big anti-Camilla group of people because everybody loved Diana. Not everybody, but a lot of people loved Diana, and they saw Camilla as the marriage wrecker.
Do you know, I'd like to ask both of you, when we see pictures of Camilla doing what she does, she's either intensely focused on whatever charity or cause she's representing, but by and large, she just looks happy to be there. Her face says she's happy to be there. Maybe it was a job or a role she never thought she would get. Now that she's got it, she thinks, this is brilliant, make the most of it.
Yeah, and I think she's a reluctant royal. I think, actually, she'd have much preferred to have carried on as playing Mrs. Parker Bowles in the background, but she is where she is now. She's going to be the Queen Consort. She has got used to it, and she's rather good at it. I've seen her at official engagements, as has Ingrid, as I'm sure you have, and she's great with the public, and she's got a terrific sense of humour.
Terrific. And Ingrid, there is a common touch there. I don't know how I mean, she's from a privileged background, whatever, but there's something about her that there are no airs and graces, if I could put it like that, for a royal. She hasn't really got those airs and graces. She's just very convivial.
Absolutely. She's humble. And Andrew's absolutely right. I think she was a reluctant royal. I think she was, she didn't like flying. She didn't like traveling. She felt the heat. She felt the cold, all the things that you need to be absolutely immune to when you're royal. And also because she didn't come into it until she was 50, really, she still doesn't have that energy that all those Windsors have. I mean, they run everywhere. Prince Charles runs everywhere, up and down corridors. Well, maybe not quite so much now, but she didn't have that energy that you need to sort of keep talking to people you're never going to meet again. But so she gradually took it on and concentrated on the people. She never thinks, look at me. She hasn't got a jot of that look at me about her. In fact, she'd rather people didn't look at her. And I think this is where she's so good, or one of the many reasons why she's so good.
And Ingrid, I think you could probably say the same about Her Majesty the Queen, and perhaps that's what she's done so masterfully on her Platinum Jubilee. Instead of saying, look at me, this is my special day, 70 years on the throne, she's turned all the attention, in fact, all the headlines really, onto Queen Camilla. And I suppose that has created this narrative, this positive narrative for the royal family that didn't really exist at the moment, because for weeks and weeks we've all been talking about Prince Andrew or Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And this is something that has caused us all to look back in our sort of memories and think positive thoughts about the royal family.
Absolutely, and I think the Queen decided that this was a really good moment to push Camilla to the fore by announcing this. I mean, earlier on in the year, she announced that she was going to be a Lady of the Garter, the Knight of the Garter, and now she's announced this, and it's to the Queen. It is the timing. I mean, I remember reading that when she was a little girl, she used to line up her shoes at night. You know, they had to be in line. And she's very precise and very careful about when she does things. And she likes to be organised, and she wanted to get everything organised before, such a time as maybe she became ill or too weak to carry on. She wanted everything sorted. And that's very much the Queen's character.
Well, Ingrid, thank you for the insight. Always lovely talking to you. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Ingrid Seward. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Having you here. Thank you very much.
The time is 9:15. Stay with us after the break. We will be back on your doorstep, as well as talking about the day's showbiz.
And showbiz gossip as well.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Okay, it is 9:17, time for the showbiz with today's showbiz editor of The Sun, Hannah Hope. Really good to see you, as always, Hannah. You've got the latest for us in this ongoing Wagatha Christie saga, as it's dubbed, the row between Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy.
Well, it may be coming to an end, mightn't it?
Well, yes, there are rumours that it should be headed to court soon. Both WAGs, I hear, want to have their day in court. But we revealed exclusively in The Sun on Sunday at the weekend that Becky actually sent Colleen a text. She was very calm and collected, but said she didn't want Colleen to include her ex-husband in the case as a character witness because of what he had allegedly put her through, and he should be left out of it. We know that both WAGs have spent a huge amount of money on the case, and yeah, it is set to end later this year, but neither of them want to admit defeat, it would seem.
Gosh, it's just such a horrible saga, isn't it? And I wonder how it's all going to end.
It'll just end in tears. That's really, I suppose.
It's gone on
there'll be no winners.
Pregnancy. Yeah, you're right. There's no winners, and the lawyers will be the winners. That's who'll be the winners in all of that. Should we turn our attention to Ramsay Street? Of course, a huge American success story. Australian success story here in the UK. It's not really very popular in Australia, and it's to be axed.
Is it? Well, is it only been? Explain this, Hannah. Is it being axed in the UK, or is it being axed because of the UK, or full stop, is it being axed?
So, Channel 5 fund Neighbours, which is made by Fremantle Australia, but they've decided that it doesn't make them enough money in advertising revenue for them to continue funding it. So their funding will end in August, and that's when it will see not only gets about 1 million viewers in the UK, and then even less viewers in Australia. So yeah,
only a million. I tell you what, I saw a photograph of the sort of heyday in the newspaper, and obviously I'm an 80s child, and it was amazing. I could name every single cast character. It was Harold Bishop, Mrs. Mangle, Paul Robinson, Scott and Charlene. I mean, I remember them all, and it's obviously 30 plus years ago.
And people do forget Kylie Minogue.
Of course,
It was in that.
It was a springboard for a lot of people.
It's launched the careers of Liam Hemsworth, Margot Robbie, Holly Valance, Guy Pearce, all these amazing actors.
Home and Away, some of those.
Some of those might have been on Home and Away as well, but yeah, it's launched the careers of many amazing actors.
It's true.
Alec Baldwin, who I think's a very good actor, but obviously these awful consequences to the shooting of that shooting dead of that director on his film. If I was sort of advising Alec Baldwin, I'd be telling him, don't do interviews, just keep your head down, have some dignity and whatever. And unfortunately, here's a story which would be funny, probably, but you don't really want to hear it. It's sort of not appropriate. Tell us the story.
So I revealed in my column yesterday in The Sun on Sunday that he has jetted to the UK to do his first movie post-Rust called 97 Minutes. It's filming in Hampshire, and it's about a hijacked plane. Like you say, you might choose just to keep your head down, get on with your contractual acting jobs. But he arrived at the airport in London, and he was met by a limo driver. Like you say, it would have been a funny story. The limo driver disappeared for 20 minutes, so he phoned the company, and he revealed that the limo had been stolen from the airport car park. And he was telling this sort of story on his Instagram stories, doing all the British voices, which actually his British accent does need work, I must say. But like you say, I just don't know if it's landed that well, because people are more interested in the fact that he's carry on working with this case still ongoing in America about this poor cinematographer who was fatally wounded by a ricocheted gunshot wound in Rust last year.
I suppose, no one would object to him continuing to work, but as you say, it's just doing the high-profile stuff, the media bits. It's just a bit uncomfortable.
I would like to say about him, there's 2 films. He plays John DeLorean incredibly well in a biopic there of the guy who invented the DeLorean car. And there's a film he stars in with Meryl Streep called It's Complicated.
Oh, I love that film.
It's
so good.
Meryl Streep's his ex-wife, and they fall in love again, but it's so good. It's very, very good. But anyway, there we go. Thanks, Hannah. Appreciate it. We've got to say bye-bye to you. We say hello to everybody in Dudley on your doorstep.
So we've been out and about this morning. I say we have. It's really been Balvinda Sidhu, who's been rushing about with her skates on all over the West Midlands for us this morning in Dudley. Where are you now, Bal?
Morning, Izzy. Well, basically, I've just scooted off from the market, which is just behind me, and I've come down Tower Street in Dudley, and I'm going to just see if this local pub is open. It's called the Old Priory, and it's, it looks quite old and traditional. So I'm just going to knock on the door and see who is here, if anybody is. I'm hopeful they'll open the door to us. Oh, yes, there's a bit of movement. Good morning, I'm Balvinder, I'm the West Midlands reporter. You're live on Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster. Can you just tell me your name?
Kelly, the landlady.
Oh, lovely to meet you, Kelly. So you live in this pub here?
Yes.
And are you from Dudley? Have you lived here long?
I've been in Dudley 5 years, but I'm associated with Dudley through family and...
Excellent, excellent. So just tell me, Kelly, tell me a little bit about the pub. How long have you owned it for?
It's an early 19th century pub. I've been here 5 years, worked for someone for a little bit, and then took on the tenancy myself. Would you like to come inside?
Yeah, let's go inside quickly and have a little.
Sorry.
Well, look at this pub. It's gorgeous. All the Six Nations flags are up here. Oh, and we've got some Black Country dialect on the back there. Can you just tell me what that means? We've got Boston Fiddle.
Boston Fiddle, that means great food. Boston great fiddle food.
Well, we're very short of time, Kelly, so I'm just going to quickly ask you, we're talking about cost of living today. You're a pub owner. Are you worried? Are you concerned because you've just come out of a pandemic?
Yes, yeah. It's going to be hard once the price rise is hit in April for us and for our customers, so for the business.
Are you having to make any sacrifices to make ends meet?
Yes, we've not booked the holidays that we usually book this year, so we're holding back, less takeaways, less going out.
Yeah, well, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard for lots of people. And finally, because we are short of time, I'm afraid, the Queen, what do you think of the Queen? 70 years on the throne?
She's amazing. I love her and respect her hard work. So she deserves it.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for letting us inside your pub. That's it from us. That's it from Dudley. Thank you so much for joining us. And, I hope Eamonn, Isabel and the rest of the country have enjoyed hearing and seeing the stories of the people of Dudley.
Really have.
Yeah,
absolutely
we really have.
loved it.
Really
got a real flavour and you got all over the place.
Yeah.
You've been so busy. Thank you so much.
I'll have a cider, incidentally. Just tell Kelly I'll have a cider.
Cider.
Thanks. Thanks very much.
We have to leave it there. Thanks for your company this Monday morning. We've had a good time, haven't we?
We have had a good time. Hopefully you have had a good time as well. We're going to be back tomorrow morning to do it all again, 6 through to 9:30. Coming up next,
Tom Harwood with the briefing. But first, here's your forecast.
looking ahead to today's weather, and Britain is looking increasingly cloudy after a sunny and frosty start with some rain arriving. The details: the southwest of England will end the morning on a generally dry but cloudier note than you'll see first thing, and a slight breeze will also develop. Some cloud will also be edging in across the southeast, although here the sun will still be making an appearance at times.
Heading across to Wales, there'll be quite a thick blanket of cloud, giving the odd spot of drizzle over the hills. The Midlands will be mainly dry, although they'll have lost the early morning bright spells, being replaced by increasing amounts of miserable cloud and a bit of west to southwesterly breeze.
A little bit of patchy rain likely over the Pennines, but to the east of high ground, many parts of northeast England will be dry, albeit on the cloudy and rather breezy side.
For much of Scotland, the middle of the day will be unsettled with outbreaks of rain in places, quite strong winds. Edinburgh and some other eastern spots, though, should just about escape dry.
Northern Ireland, some rain likely to affect here, and it'll be light, it'll be patchy, it'll mainly fall over hills. It'll be mild with a keen wind blowing. The afternoon and evening will be mostly cloudy with patchy rain and strength.